This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wrestling Omakase. It is episode number 123. This week, we're here to do a year in review, mostly for AEW, but we're also going to talk some Ring of Honor as well. First of all, I want to say right at the start here, if you saw our guest lineup, originally we were supposed to be joined by Joe Gagney as well. Unfortunately, due to a bit of a personal emergency, he was not able to join us. Just wanted to say to Joe, we definitely hope everything is, everything's for the best right now, and we look forward to having you back on next year. Sorry you couldn't join us today. But we still have two guests here. First of all, returning to the show is Sean. Hello, Sean.
Hi, John. How's it going?
Pretty good.
It's been a long weekend for me. A lot of Christmas parties, a lot of wrestling. Just saw my brother's barbershop concert tonight, which was pretty fun. And John, you'll be happy to know that my brother is a very big My Hero Academia fan. So,
oh yeah, what does he think of the What does he think of this season?
I would have asked him, but he was, he had basically had to go right to work after the concert. So, I have no idea how far he's in, but I know he enjoys it enough that I think he went to a Comic-Con either in Boston or Richmond, and he got a couple pieces of artwork for My Hero, and he's got them hanging on his wall. So I know he's a dedicated fan. I'll just say
that. This season, of course, I think it's been really awesome so far for people who have been listening. Definitely check that out if you haven't watched the season yet. But I don't know. I didn't like this week's episode because it felt like it was kind of just stalling in the middle of this arc. Like I didn't like how much of it was flashbacks, but what are you going to do, I guess? Also joining us here is from the podcast Everything Elite. Did not call it Everything Evolves this time. All right. Nate is here. Hello, Nate.
Hello, John. Hello, Sean. Happy to be back. And yeah, I'm actually gearing up for my first trip to Japan here in a couple weeks. So just absolutely dead with work and, trying to get prepared for that. So good to relax a little bit and talk about some wrestling.
Now, when do you fly out?
Flying out on the 30th. So we'll be there for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then staying for about 10 days.
Yeah, it's your very first trip, right? So that's going to be something.
Make sure you're
an anime dork. Make sure you go to Nakano Broadway. It's my big recommendation. Because everybody knows Akiba and everybody knows Ikebukuro, I think, but Nakano Broadway, it's a little out of the way, I guess, from central Tokyo, but it's such a cool shopping mall. It's like a very old style shopping mall, it's never been renovated, so it looks very old timey in the interior, which is cool. But then all the stores are all these little Mandrake stores that all specialize in different otaku goods. So it's really cool.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it on my list. I was a late onset anime dork, so I'm still dipping my foot in, but I'm definitely going to have time to take in the whole city there, so I'm sure I'll get there.
Now, are you also like Mr. Aaron Bentley, who I guess to taunt me personally, comes into the Voice Wrestling Slack with like, I'm not even that excited to go to either day of Wrestle Kingdom.
No, I'm pretty excited. I do think his lack of excitement is genuine, though, just because he's like largely negative on New Japan in general, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I'm pretty pumped for that. I am. My hype levels are like sort of moderated that it is in the dome. I'm not like a big fan of giant venues in wrestling. I like smaller venues, but also going to, Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro and thinking about Actress Girls. So, I'm going to have a full slate of stuff.
What kind of seats did you get for the dome?
I have no idea. Whatever the Foreigner, we each got a set of the Foreigner tickets for the 2 days. And as far as I can tell, they don't give us the actual seating info on them yet. I think they just give us a QR code to pick them up at the dome.
And did you get tickets for New Year's Dash or no?
No, kind of deciding about that one still. The Bentleys are going to Disney that day. So it kind of going to depend on if I'm like burnt out on wrestling or not. I mean, obviously it'd be cool to be there for Liger's ceremony and like any big angles they do, but it'll also be, like a 4th or 5th straight day of wrestling. So I might just skip it.
And so now my final question before I unfortunately have to move on. Do you have a prediction as of now for who walks out with both belts?
I think Naito's the safe bet, right? So
yeah.
It seems a little obvious to say that here on your show, but I'd be out thinking myself if I went with somebody else. It feels like it's going to be Naito over Okada.
Yeah, I still think it's Naito too, and I think, the only other person that's felt really possible to me is Ibushi, but maybe I'll feel differently after the Road to Tokyo Dome shows this week. Maybe that'll give me a better feel. But those cards, by the way, look awesome. If people haven't seen them, I did a little write up on voicesofwrestling.com. If people haven't seen the lineups of the last 3 shows before Tokyo Dome, so it's Road to Tokyo Dome at Korakuen this coming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and they did a cool thing on the first 2 nights where like they matched up basically all the different possible pairings of the 1-5 night. So you had the 1-5 like double title match. So like on the first Korakuen, you have Naito and Ibushi in a tag, and you have Okada and White in a tag. And the second night at Korakuen, you have Naito and Okada, and it's like an 8-man, and Ibushi and White in a tag. And then finally on the third night, they do the hype matches for the matches we know are actually happening, Naito, White, and Okada, Ibushi. So it's interesting.
Now, John, I know Joe Lanza really complained about this on one of his news updates or something on the Patreon. Are you upset as he is about Hiromu wrestling on those shows?
Well, I talked about this in my preview. I think it's awesome Hiromu's returning at Korakuen, and I think it's a way better venue for his return than the Tokyo Dome. I get it that people are like, oh well, his first match back should have been, the Ospreay match. It takes away. First of all, I don't think anything is going to take away from Hiromu and Ospreay. I think, like, if you're really thinking, like, is there anyone on earth who's like, oh, I wanted to see Hiromu and Ospreay, but now that he's wrestling some tag matches at Korakuen, I don't want to see that fucking match anymore. They could just cancel it. Like, I don't think anyone on earth would say that. And second of all, I think Korakuen, that's a building that Hiromu has like a really special connection to, both regarding to the fans and the fact that he won the Best of Super Juniors there. So I don't know. I think it's a perfect place for his return, and I was thrilled when I saw it personally. But I get why some people didn't like it, I guess. But it doesn't bother me. I'm actually quite happy about it.
It's one of those matches. Isn't one of those matches Bushi and Hiromu versus Birds of Prey? Like, that should be really good.
It's the main event of night 1. So they're still main eventing Korakuen with his return match. So I think it works, honestly. But Nate, you were going to say something.
I think it's better also to give him a warm-up match to get his, ring legs back under him before the big dome stage. And I was just going to say since everyone else has had their take on like the dome cards and I have not put mine out there anywhere, instead of doing the consolation match on 1-5, they should have the 2 losers from 1-4. One should have to wrestle Shingo and one should have to wrestle Ishii just as punishment. And that should be your fill out the cards matches.
Yeah. I get the idea behind the consolation match, and it's clearly like supposed to be a de facto number 1 contenders match. But like, yeah, it is going to be really, really weird when the 2 of them come out there. And if God forbid Naito loses on 1-4, which that's the only result that would like really, really, really stun me is if Naito loses to Jay on 1-4. If Naito goes to the main event on 1-5 and loses to Ibushi, I really won't be that surprised. But if Naito loses on 1-4 and that ends in that fucking consolation match on 1-5, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I don't know. It could be very unhappy, I guess. I don't know what else to say. But I just can't see them jobbing him to White a third time in a row. It just seems impossible to me. And the hype videos, if people haven't seen them yet, like they've really focused on the idea that Naito was the one who came up with this whole double title thing. The Naito White little 1 minute hype video they released on New Japan World on YouTube yesterday. It was like that video to me was like a, okay, Naito's at least going to beat Jay White. Like that, it felt pretty, pretty strong. But some people seem to be on the fucking Jay White is winning bandwagon. So I don't know. Well, Sean, who's your prediction?
Well, I think Naito's probably is the safe pick to come out with it. And what's funny is that I think with Naito, or I guess with Jay White, is that it feels like that with Naito and White, they're following a similar pattern with White and Okada, where White beat Okada the first 2 times, and then Okada, he won the third match, but Jay White still like had an out where he won the first 2 matches and he still has more wins over Okada. So I sort of see the same thing playing out here, where Jay White's beaten Naito twice, and Naito will beat him in the Dome, but White will still have the out of, I still beat you twice though, and I still have more wins over you than you have over me.
Yeah, and then it'll be like a question of what are they going to do at New Beginning? Maybe Jay beats Ibushi or something to get his win back from the G1 in the consolation match, and they do Naito White at New Beginning again, but I don't know. We're getting way ahead of ourselves as usual. It's like when 2018, like the big question on Twitter was like, who's Naito's defense going to be against? And people were like, oh, maybe Bad Luck Fale. I forget why that was the favorite, but that was like, it seemed to be the favorite. But as we can all tell, Naito versus Bad Luck Fale did not headline New Beginning in Osaka for the IWGP Heavyweight title. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's a lot of New Japan talk, and we're here to talk about AEW and Ring of Honor, apparently. So I wanted to start out with Ring of Honor, first of all, because we've done the Ring of Honor Year in Review episode a couple years in a row, and I didn't want to totally toss them out because, they had a very interesting year, clearly. It wasn't a good year, of course. It was a very, very bad year, but they had a very interesting year. And, I wrote a pair of articles on Voices of Wrestling about, the what brought Ring of Honor here, and, and then like a follow-up. Apparently the articles caused a little bit of a stir. And it's a very weird thing watching a promotion that I've known for so long, that, a promotion I used to go to all their shows. There's video evidence of me in the crowd in the front row for all these Ring of Honor shows in the Northeast from like 2004 through like 2008. And it's just a very strange feeling just watching them like completely die in front of you. I will say it's a little bit different maybe for me than for some people, because the Ring of Honor I really fell in love with. I feel like I mourned them already in like 2010 maybe, and I never was really that attached to the current era of Ring of Honor. But you, Sean, obviously you've been very very big fan of the current era of Ring of Honor. I don't think that's unfair to say, and you did watch them quite a bit during the not that I didn't watch Ring of Honor and still go to a bunch of their shows, but I don't have the same affinity probably that you do. So, I guess what has it been like watching Ring of Honor maybe slowly die in front of our eyes this year after the Elite left?
Well, I think it's interesting, going back to how you said you fell out of love with Ring of Honor, previously. And I always thought I think I might have mentioned this on a previous show that I was on, but I've always found it interesting that like around the same time that you got out in like this 2009 or so, 2010 is around the same time when I got in. So I guess I have more memories and just general knowledge of this sort of decade of Ring of Honor as opposed to the first decade of the company. It seemed like coming into this year that they had signed a bunch of talents. Certainly not on the same level as the Elite and SCU and Best Friends, but it seemed like they did a somewhat decent job. right before Final Battle, and then sort of in the ensuing month or so, a couple weeks of signing people like, Bandito and Mark Haskins, PCO, who had some buzz, Brody King and others. And it seemed like that they at least had, not the pieces to totally replace the Elite, but, just new and fresh pieces in there. And, the attendance did drop during the first quarter of the year, but not as much as maybe some might have thought. So it sort of at least gave me the impression that, oh, okay, well, it's going down. I don't think anyone would have said it wouldn't go down, but it's not like cratering immediately. But it was really, after MSG, sort of the Ring of Honor half of the show, where things really seemed to crater. And obviously, I think a lot of people would contribute that to the fact that the Ring of Honor portion of MSG was universally panned by almost everyone, even though, I enjoyed the ladder match for what it was, and I tend to enjoy ladder matches a little bit more than most probably. And, the hardcore match, while it was, okay in a vacuum, it certainly didn't fit the tone of the show, especially since it sort of came about after the whole, the guy coming out to rap for 10 minutes and then Bully Ray turning into a babyface when he came out to stop him because people just did not like this guy rapping in the middle of their New Japan show. But yeah, no, it's the decline has been, it's, I guess at this point, it's not really a surprise, especially again, how MSG seemed to turn a lot of people off to Ring of Honor. And, Matt Taven being on top certainly didn't help either.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're underplaying that because the Matt Taven win in that ladder match, which by the way, I thought was hideous. Mm-hmm. I thought that match was really terrible. One of the worst matches I've ever sat through live as far as a world title match. But Matt Taven winning the belt over Marty was just one of the more baffling decisions, especially once Marty's contract just ran out now. We all wondered how long Marty's contract went. It went through November 30th. And so they had this guy for not even, for basically the rest of the year. What I had said before that show that Marty probably shouldn't win. And, I was talking about lethal retaining, not fucking Madison Square Taven. But I thought Marty's contract ran out in 2 or 3 months or something, because that seemed to be a lot of the talk at the time. If you had told me Marty's contract ran through November 30th, I would have been yeah, sure, make him the fucking champion. He's clearly the only thing left in the company that, is super over. I mean, if you're in Madison Square Garden, he was the only thing, as far as Ring of Honor, not New Japan, that was over to that, even close to that degree. I mean, that building loved Marty Scurll. And, if I knew he was champion through November, if I knew he was under contract through November 30th, I'm of course make him champion, give the Elite fans a reason to, stick around and pay attention, and then beat him in fucking September. I mean, they have a fucking pay-per-view at the end of September. So beat him there. That's more than enough time to, because you don't want to have your champion lose and then leave right after. I get that. You don't want your champion's last night to be him losing the title, because it kind of makes it feel okay, well, the champion's gone and now, he's in AEW or whatever. But if you beat him at the end of September, you still have 2 more months with him. It doesn't really feel like he just, your champion just went straight off of television. But I don't know. They didn't want to make him champion because they didn't think he was going to stay. And, they went with Matt Taven in a completely baffling decision. And, Matt Taven, I don't think he's a bad wrestler, but just making him champion, making a guy who, is a career mid-card heel who lots of your fan base clearly doesn't think very highly of. I mean, it's just, you can't make that guy world champion when you're already struggling with a fan perception problem and the idea of there's no reason for you to watch anymore. You have to show the fans that there's still a reason to watch you. They're basically giving you a chance. They're okay, is Ring of Honor still worth paying attention to in a post-Elite world? And the Matt Taven win, I think, was just a very clear signal to lots of people that no, it's not worth paying attention to. This is what they are now. So
yeah.
I really think the story of that Madison Square Garden show, like you're saying, John, is that it demonstrated to all the potential remaining viewers that the office doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't know what the fans want to see. Because, like you said, they beat Skrull, and then they did these boneheaded angles with Enzo and Cass, and with the Allure, and it's just like, it's like if you've ever gone to a party at like a couple's place and then the couple gets in a fight and everybody else is like uncomfortable to be there. That's like the mood in that building where all these people came to see New Japan or whatever. And then Ring of Honor just like shit the bed and embarrass themselves and embarrass New Japan and embarrass half the crowd. Like that was the vibe. And like with so much other content out there with MLW and Impact and AEW now and all this stuff, like there has to be buy-in from the fans where they think they're going to get rewarded for paying attention to this promotion. And that show was just like a big red flag. Like, hey, nope, this is not what you want to see here on this show. So, and then plus, like, as the year went on, we found out that, we had confirmed that the ROH management is like terrible and doesn't take care of their talent and doesn't know what they're doing. And it just like goes to show that like, there's no reason to invest your time when, it just takes somebody at Sinclair deciding all this bad PR is not worth the trouble and shutting the door on it. So they have to find some other niche to go into or something because they've lost the elite fans, and there's no reason really for those fans to come back when the B level major league promotion spot is already filled in the US.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say too is like, obviously elite fans are gone. At the start of the year, there's almost like this whole thing where it's like, well, maybe Ring of Honor and New Japan are going to hug each other tighter now, to combat AEW. And, like I've said this before, I think on this podcast, but like Zack Sabre Jr. at Final Battle 2018 was almost as over as the elite guys. Like I could not believe how over that guy was. I knew Zack was popular, but I had no idea he was that popular. So he comes out for that match with Jonathan Gresham, and like the crowd is like just going crazy for him and singing, the Zack Sabre song and just like losing their minds. They loved him. So, if Zack Sabre Jr., if there like an alternate universe where, Zack Sabre Jr. is wrestling in New Japan, in Ring of Honor, like all the time between his New Japan dates, Juice Robinson is there instead of moving to Japan permanently. David Finlay doesn't break his or tear his shoulder or whatever the fuck happened, and he's there all the time. Like, is there like an alternate universe where these people are all wrestling in New Japan? And never mind the fact that or all wrestling in Ring of Honor, and maybe you get more New Japan guys on these shows. I mean, that's also kind of a forgotten thing. It's like when you look at the cards, before the Elite left, like last year, Death Before Dishonor, I mean, Kazuchika Okada is on that show. Like in this big 10-man tag thing. Will Ospreay's in the main event, challenging Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World Title. Like they had a lot more New Japan participation on their pay-per-views and other big shows last year than they did this year. And it's like that G1 Supercard is a turning point. And at that point, you basically have nothing after that Global Wars tour, which we were talking about this off the air that you were at, where like they did not exactly send a murderer's row of guys to that final Global Wars tour. It was like Nagata, Kojima, Evil, Sonata, and Godo, I think, right? Is that pretty much it?
GOD.
Yeah, and Hikuleo, GOD, and all the New Japan guys wrestled each other except for GOD versus Briscoes. Like they did not wrestle any of the Ring of Honor talent. It was Hikuleo versus Goto, and then it was LIJ versus Nagata and Kojima, and it was like, that's pretty telling that the big matches on here are just straight ahead New Japan matches.
And then that's it. And then there's been no other New Japan participation other than the GOD thing. And, you look at the, you look at that summer super card. I think people have forgotten this by now, but like when that was announced as a Ring of Honor, CMLL, New Japan Pro Wrestling show. Like and that's how they announced it.
And the NWA
and
in there too.
Right. Yeah, and they dropped out because that fell apart. And the entire New Japan participation ended up being GOD, who were on a bunch of shows this year as Ring of Honor World Tag Champions. But they lost the belts and they have not been seen or heard from since. And there was this whole thing where I get the Ring of Honor New Japan thing is still technically alive. I mean, we saw Jeff Cobb at World Tag League, but there
was also a New Japan contracted wrestler that won a Ring of Honor title at Final Battle and with Dragon Lee. Yeah.
Although I wonder if he might lose a title tonight or something, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, so like that's still alive. But like what I found really interesting is when Harold Mage goes on like he does a Fox Sports Australia interview and says the relations are still alive and we think our U.S. shows are going to increase the value of everybody and blah 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 blah. And then Dave Meltzer gets Joe Koff on the record. Why the fuck Joe Koff said this on the record, I have no idea. But on the record to say, basically, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about because Dave has a quote from Joe Koff that's like, we don't have any current New Japan talent booked for any Ring of Honor shows upcoming. Like they have no dates on any New Japan guys. So that would presumably include Tampa, where Ring of Honor is going to try to put on a fucking show. On WrestleMania weekend. Apparently no New Japan participation. I've heard some rumors about New Japan participation that weekend, and I can't really say what I've heard. I mean, I guess I can just say it won't be. Don't go to Florida specifically for New Japan. Is I guess what I can say. There might be something, but it won't be on a big scale. But like, as far as like New Japan Ring of Honor thing, I mean, is there an alternate universe where like Zack Sabre Jr. is there all the time, Juice is there all the time, all these guys are there, and maybe you have more of a reason for like a New Japan fan, to pay more attention throughout the year. I'm not saying they would have been doing like fantastic numbers or anything, but they probably would have been doing better than they did in the second half of this year. So I don't know. What do you think, Sean? Do you think the New Japan thing has had a? I mean, it just feels like they just like up and left them basically at the same time as Elite, which really I can't do much for the feeling of the company.
Right, and it says a lot that when they they had that War of the Worlds tour in May with the New Japan guys, and then when they came back with Global Wars later in the year, it was a CMLL partner tour, and they had they were basically relying on all CMLL talent,
which did not draw at all, by the way.
Yeah, which they did not do a very good job of promoting those shows. So it just seems like the relationship at this point, I guess you could say it's on life support. It's not totally dead, and again, the Dragon Lee thing would seem to indicate that again he just signed a contract with New Japan and he won a Ring of Honor title, though I don't know if that was more the fact that Ring of Honor wasn't re-signing Shane Taylor, and the fact that Dragon Lee's I would assume Dragon Lee is working a little bit of Ring of Honor next year just because his brother is there, but then his brother lost on Friday to PCO, so I don't know what's going on anymore. But yeah, it's definitely on life support, and I guess if I could just go back quickly to Matt Taven, just to talk about him. Like I've always seen Matt Taven as like a good wrestler. He's just a guy who I never thought would be, he was never world championship material, I thought. And I thought that when he got when he became the leader of the Kingdom, I know he had a title shot against Chris Daniels during that title reign, and I was like, he shouldn't. And people thought he might win. I was like, no, he shouldn't win because he's just not the guy who should be main eventing Ring of Honor. And I guess the best analogy for him would be that he is, just incredible 20 years later, which I think lines up because I think that Just Incredible was ECW champion around like 99 or so. I could be totally wrong. I'm not really, well versed in the history of ECW at that level, but yeah, it seems like Matt Taven is very much a Just Incredible sort of figure where, good wrestler, good hand for your mid card, TV title, tag title level, but he's not really deserving of being the main eventer, and just some people just aren't cut out to be the main eventer in a promotion, regardless of the size. I didn't think Matt Taven was sort of the guy to go with, and obviously, yes, the decision at MSG to put the title on him instead of Marty was not the right call, especially in hindsight. And I know. I think John, you mentioned earlier about how you could have put the title on Marty, but I think that you could have put the title on Marty and then have him hold it until his last day, because what was one of the biggest stories in Ring of Honor, in its heyday, it was the Summer of Punk angle, where Punk was basically hanging the title over the promotion, saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to WWE with this title."
Yeah, but that angle would not have worked this time, though, because then Marty would have been the babyface.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, now that I think about it, that's probably true. He would be a massive babyface.
But that worked. That worked because people hated WWE. So
Right.
Punk threatening to go to WWE with the title made him a huge heel. This is like Marty threatening to go to AEW title. People would be like, they would have been like, "Let's go."
Yeah, that is true. I didn't think about that. But yeah, you still could have had Marty at least hold the title, especially knowing that Matt Taven's contract was up months before Marty's was.
Yeah, that was bizarre. I mean, they're very lucky he resigned, because that could have been very, very much more embarrassing. Like, I totally forgot his contract was up first, which is incredible.
And I guess in a way with Marty, perhaps again, with the benefit of hindsight, maybe this whole situation could be a bit of a silver lining for him. Because, say they did put the world title on him at MSG, we don't know. I mean, I would think that, the attendance would still go down, but I don't know if it would have gone down to the degree that it did with Marty's champ. But say on the off chance that the exact same attendance drop happened with Marty as champ, then that, that's a bad look for Marty, because he's the champion.
So I want to throw some attendance numbers out at you, because I feel like we haven't really talked about the actual numbers.
Those are pretty important.
So up through August 7th, which is when I wrote my original article, their average attendance for 2019, obviously taking out MSG, which you really shouldn't count, was 835. That was their average. Not great, but it was down from 2018, which was again taking out the Mania weekend show. 2018 was 1,213 over the same period. I want to say too, this was credit to Lavi Margolin on Twitter, who kept track of these at the time. So that was up to August 7th, 835. From August 7th until everything up to this past weekend. I don't know the numbers for this weekend yet. So everything from August 7th, August 9th, Summer Supercard, through November 3rd, unauthorized, 484 was the average of the 14 events. So just from the first half of the year to the second half, basically, they dropped almost more than 50%. So you're talking about, they really had trouble breaking 500 fans for a while. And after I wrote that article, multiple people actually told me that they thought the Dave Meltzer, because I got these numbers from the Observer, and people were like, I'm pretty sure the Meltzer is rounding up on these numbers, and they might actually be even worse, because they're very round numbers. It's 600, 500, 500, 800, 600. And it's he might actually be rounding up here. So it might, the real numbers are probably even worse. And it's also not even counting how many of them are papered, or they started doing these wacky ticket sales on a Groupon and stuff. So it's really dire. I mean, the England tour especially, they must have lost so much money on that England tour, the Honor United tour this year, because they did 400 in London, which is York Hall, a building that's been packed by plenty of promotions. They did 150 in Newport, Wales, and they did 300 in Bolton. So just horrific numbers to fly the entire crew all the way to England to draw those fucking numbers is really something. And then they came back.
That 150 number is pretty bad.
And then 250 in Pittsburgh and 300 in Columbus when they came back to the U.S. So really terrible. What were you going to say?
It's all fine, because the new heel stable led by Vinny Kingdom is going to turn it all around. It's going to be a big 2020. People are dying to see Vinny Kingdom on top of a big stable.
Does he really have a new stable? I didn't even know.
So Tyler Bateman joined him yesterday, and then they all put 5 fingers up, there's going to be 5 people or something.
And it would not shock me if one of those people who joins him is Crowbar, because Crowbar is working the TV tapings tonight.
He's 45 years old, isn't he? What the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird.
People are dying to see Crowbar.
Yeah, it's weird when you look at that TV tape and they're looking who they're bringing in. They got Crowbar. I know they're bringing in. they're bringing in Hollowicked from Chikara for some random reason. I know they're bringing in Ray Horus. I know they're bringing in Nicole Savoy, who's probably, the best, if she would work there, would be the best woman in the division by like default. And then I think there was somebody else wacky that they were bringing in, but yeah, Crowbar. I could easily see him joining Vinny's group if that's where they're going.
Yeah, that's money right there. That's a money group. What they actually need to do is either buy or get bought out by Impact or MLW. And barring one of those options, they just need to run the ROH versus CZW angle again, but with GCW, since GCW is like 10 times hotter than them.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, people we have a bunch of questions. We get to the questions of like, how do you turn around Ring of Honor? And not to spoil my answer, but I really have no fucking idea. I mean, this is quite the quagmire to be, you spent the past 6 years building up two things under air: Bullet Club / the Elite and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So when they both decide that they don't really want much to do with you anymore, I mean, you don't have anything left. I mean, they're basically WCW, I mean, they basically told their fans that these other brands are, far superior to their own brand. And the fans are like, okay, well, if you told us it fucking sucks, I guess it fucking sucks. What are we doing here? On top, what's that?
I was going to say their identity used to be, we're like the top indie. We have the real work rate, classics. We do the long matches that are really good. And if you really like watching good matches, we are who you watch. But now every promotion under the sun does has caught PWG syndrome, and they're all doing these same super indie style matches. So that niche is just evaporated. Like you can see high level, lots of kick out matches on WWE pay-per-views if you want. There's nothing there that's like going to draw you to Ring of Honor unless you're particularly invested in that original decade where it was like the prestigious sort of wrestling promotion, especially on the East Coast. So yeah, they have to find some sort of new identity. This is really like what Evolve's problem was until Evolve just became the NXT B League. Like they don't have anything that sets them apart from the pack. Maybe they should just go like full MAGA chud problematic promotion and like lean into the Cornette fans and the Russo fans and get all these people, because AEW has cornered the market on like corporate wokeness. So like, wokeness in quotation marks. So like Ring of Honor should go the other way. They should zag and just be like, oh, you're tired of political correctness? Well, come watch this show. Bully Ray, I'll call you a pussy.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably, but I don't like how many of those people are going to buy a ticket. I don't know. It feels like that's something people just like to troll about on Twitter,
And part of the problem, I think, is that they're still running these like massive venues, and they haven't. Like I know, I like asked about this in the Slack over the past couple of months. I think Mike Spears mentioned to me at least once or twice that it's probably a situation where they like booked the venues out in advance. So it's like, okay, if they booked them out like 6 or 7 months in advance, I get it. But they I know next year, like for St. Louis, they booked this like massive venue, and it's like, why are you doing this? Like it doesn't make any sense.
It's pretty stupid.
They should be running like that Collinsville venue that they ran for a number of years in that St. Louis area, which would at least with that you'd get like 400 or 500, but it would look sort of packed instead of just an empty basketball arena.
I mean, look, they did whatever the number they did in Final Battle. It's an embarrassing number for a gigantic arena. It results in like this echo. It's like it makes the show like actively uncooler. It's like what is cooler? Seeing 500 people in a PAX place where like the sound travels, it sounds like the crowd's super hot, or 500 people in a fucking basketball arena and like it sounds like there's 10 people there. I mean, I don't know. It's just very basic shit like that where I'm just like, I don't really know what Ring of Honor is doing at this point, and it doesn't feel like they know what they're doing either. So maybe that's a good transition. We'll talk.
Just one more quick note on Ring of Honor. I just want to note that it was a pretty telling visual that last night, or I guess on Friday night, Final Battle goes off the air with PCO, who is going to turn 52 in like 2 weeks. He wins the Ring of Honor World Title, and who's celebrating in the ring with him to end the show? it's Marty.
Yeah, it's something. They're very weird promotion. I mean, the booking has been terrible for years. I would argue it never feels like there's a direction, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it starts with just like going wholesale, cleaning house or whatever, but they don't seem to have any desire to do that. So it just kind of seems like, and the TV is like, we haven't even mentioned the TV. They've destroyed their own television show, right? Is it just all recaps now?
Pretty much. I mean, I haven't, and to be frank, this is probably like the least I've watched Ring of Honor in a year in like a very long time. So I really haven't like actually like seen the television show. But that's what I heard is that like they'll feature maybe like one like full match, and then the rest of it is like clips of other matches, and then people like Ian Riccaboni and the other announcer lady that they have just going over like storylines and stuff. And from what I heard, they didn't even really do a good job building Final Battle on the TV either. So
yeah. All right, so let's get off Ring of Honor because it's depressing. I think we can move over to AEW now. It's Ring of Honor is what it is, and the G1, I think the G1 Supercard, their half of that will just forever be remembered as like a turning point, and we'll see if they can ever come back. I'm very doubtful. Moves us over to AEW, which of course began officially on May 25th. Before we get, AEW is a very interesting thing. I think we're pretty clearly out of the honeymoon phase now. We're out of that phase where I think everybody's like, give it time, just give it a chance. You have to give them more time to do blah, 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 blah. So I think people are more comfortable hearing critiques of it. And I think people kind of like settled into their little camps as we've kind of figured out what the TV is actually going to be. There are still people who absolutely love AEW. They love all things AEW. I mean, like, Joe Lanza, I think of Voice Wrestling Flagship, he still seems to pretty much love most of what they do. Although I think that he said this week's was his least favorite TV show. But in general, he seems to be very into them. And there's a lot of people on Twitter who love them. And I think, most of the, if you look at the Voice of Wrestling Discord, they love it. If you go to the Super J-Cast Discord on the AEW channel, it's been very negative for weeks and weeks now. And, they just very, very much turned on the promotion of the show. Even the people who, maybe were giving it more of a chance at first. So you can find pockets everywhere. Obviously, WWE fans hate it, but that's not really anything shocking. But I think Nate and I were talking about it off air, and, you had an interesting theory. I'm hoping you can repeat here. Like where they had like such a buildup, right? There was time for everyone to kind of have their own idea about what the promotion was going to be. And, some fans clearly do like it and some don't. So I kind of just stole your theory, but go ahead and repeat it.
Yeah. Well, doing my own podcast on this is like, goes part and parcel with this being sort of an issue, but we knew the promotion was coming for a long time in advance of the promotion. And they started doing these pay-per-view shows, and they had these multiple web series that were all building up to the big debut on TNT. They were doing tons of media interviews, of course, because you're promoting your product and you need to raise awareness for it. And it's just very easy in all of that for people to pick out what they want to hear out of that stuff. So it's easy for like New Japan fans to hear that they're saying, oh, wins and losses are really going to matter. And, there's going to be no fuck finishes. It's going to be all, clean finishes and all this stuff. It's easy for them to hear that stuff in the promotional build up to the promotion. And then, they have that expectation of what it's going to be. It was, of course, it's fair to take people at their word when they put it in a interview on whatever media outlet. But yeah, just very easy for people to develop their own idea of what their ideal new wrestling promotion would be like. And of course, in actuality, there's no way that it could fit into everyone's perceived whole of what the new wrestling promotion is going to be. So I think as the honeymoon period ends, and then we get into like the long-term understanding what they are prioritizing and how they're going to write their shows and how they're going to produce their shows, as people come to accept what that is, they will probably, I think, find the way that it has differed from what they expected to be less grating, and they won't be so caught up on their preconceived notions, I guess. But yeah, speaking from our perspective, or I guess I should say my perspective, I found it pretty easy to be critical of AEW doing a weekly show about it, just because now that there are multiple major league promotions in the US other than WWE, like you can watch AEW, you can watch New Japan and like have your fill of like full arenas with, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 people losing their mind for pro wrestling. It's much easier now than I think it was a year ago to lob criticisms of one or the other, because a year ago it'd be like, well, yeah, I understand that there's these complaints about Kenny Omega or whoever else in New Japan, but at least it's not the WWE, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do think there's people. It kind of has been like a very much like, I feel like the people who really love AEW have also kind of soured on New Japan, so it's kind of a good point. And the people who still really love New Japan aren't as super into AEW. Not that there aren't people who are still really into both, but I think that definitely has happened.
Well, I really think a lot of that, and this is my own perspective, just because there's 2 hours of like pretty watchable pro wrestling on a week-to-week basis now, that makes it a lot easier. Like when a New Japan show comes around at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, for me to go, no, I'm gonna sleep in and I'll dip in and watch whatever matches happen and interest me after the fact. Like I just don't have that same hunger for like really good pro wrestling, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna watch 2 hours this week on Wednesday, and like I don't need 30 hours of pro wrestling a week. Most people probably have a limited budget of time where they can fit all this stuff in.
Yeah.
And with that limited budget of time, ease of access, becomes a real big thing. And the fact that it's on free TV every week now, it's, makes it a lot easier to invest your time in wrestling than, and New Japan World is great, but, it's a different levels of investment, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, this year has made me more invested in New Japan than anything. And just because I do think it's having that, maybe having that dichotomy where it's like, I get what AEW is going for, and I get why it's really connected with a lot of people. It hasn't connected with me on that same level. Not that I don't, I've seen every single Dynamite so far, but like, it is very American wrestling. And I think people probably should have expected that more than they did. And I'm even saying for myself too. They should have expected it to be very American wrestling, but it is like extremely American wrestling. And, it's very much like kind of even heightened the contradiction with New Japan for me. And it's like, well, I just really, after watching Dynamite a lot of weeks, I'm just like, I just really kind of want to watch, a 2.5 hour show at Korakuen Hall where people are just going to have some matches. I don't need any more spooky goths yelling at me on the screen or showing up on hotel TVs to recruit jobbers or whatever the fuck. Like I have a maximum amount I can take that, and it definitely does. Like there was the biggest thing was like the what's it called? What was the name of the fucking pay-per-view? Full Gear. Full Gear was the same night as as the New Japan Showdown San Jose show. So basically I was able to just turn off Full Gear and turn back on Showdown San Jose. And like going straight from an AEW pay-per-view to a New Japan show, even not like a gigantic New Japan show, it was much more like this kind of made me increased my appreciation for like people having to color in the lines, I guess is the best way to put it. There's a structure to New Japan now that you can kind of see when you compare it directly to AEW, where it just feels like, we're just kind of like fucking doing everything and anything. And, we're just starting totally from scratch. And, I get why people love that chaos. And I totally understand it, but it gets very, exhausting for me after a little while.
Yeah. So, I totally get, like, when you learn the way the New Japan system works and how their booking is structured and can see how things are developing, it's very satisfying to watch. And like you said, AEW is starting from scratch. We don't know what that structure is or if they're going to have a structure in that way. So it can definitely be off-putting. I will say you'd asked me what I dislike the least or dislike the most about AEW before we started recording. And I think really my biggest criticism is they have been poor about managing expectations. Like if you watched All In and then watched Dynamite, like that would totally fit. It's like very American pro wrestling show. You had Joey Ryan out there. You had Marty Scurll doing, comedy skits on the Titantron before his match with Okada. Like that logically feeds into what Dynamite looks like on TV a lot of the time. I mean, they're not doing big, broad comedy very much, although the Chris Jericho celebration was like approaching pretty broad comedy. But yeah, then they did this whole build up the promotion where it was like, oh, it's going to be sports oriented. There's going to be hardcore stats. We're going to do this, 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 and this. And they also just like fucked up and talked about CM Punk all the time. And they, just did a poor job of managing expectations because you're just begging the audience to disagree with you. Like Tony Khan would also do it before every pay-per-view and be like, oh, well, Fyter Fest is going to be the best pay-per-view of all time. And it's like, don't say that because then people are going to watch it and be like, well, that was entertaining, but it wasn't the best pay-per-view of all time. This guy's fucking lying. Yeah. Like they've done a poor job, I think, of managing expectations in that way. But again, as people settle into what it is and develop their own expectations for what it's going to be, that discourse, I think, will relax to some degree. Of course, the discourse of all like the bad faith criticisms and the WWE stands will just continue on eternally, I expect.
Yeah, of course. And to me, like the major thing that I personally have a problem with versus their expectations, and we talked about this off the air, too, is like the finishes have gotten increasingly shitty on Dynamite. Like there's just so much interference now, and there is interference in New Japan too. And we were saying off the air, like it is very similar almost to New Japan, where like you can have all kinds of wacky shit, but they'll never call DQ. So in that way, that might be their most New Japan-esque thing as far as like, what they've taken away from the booking. But like, at least in New Japan, it feels like they always do a really good job. I mean, I prefer no interference at all, but they do a good job like keeping it to one unit at a time. So like for a little while it was Suzuki-gun. At one point it was LIJ. And now in the last like year plus, it's been Bullet Club. So Bullet Club does the interference. Suzuki-gun does not do the interference. LIJ does not do interference. It's all only contained to Bullet Club. So if you go into a match with Kenta or Jay White or something, they might do some of that bullshit. But if you go in a match with anybody else, you're not going to see it. Whereas like Dynamite, it just feels like it's all over these shows now. Like just constant like run-ins and bullshit, and I don't know. That does like if I had anything on the shows that like annoy me, that I didn't expect even based on what they were saying beforehand, it would be like I feel like the finishes have gotten increasingly bad. So.
Yeah, on the finishes, I think a lot of credit has to be given to Garrett Kidney because I feel like not only on his on the Wednesday War Games podcast, but on his Twitter as well. I think he was one of the first ones to point that out, like in week 2 or week 3. And yeah, there's a lot of sort of these run-in finishes or people getting involved, and I guess for me personally, like I'm sort of like it depends on situation. Like if someone, and this goes for New Japan as well, like if someone gets involved and it leads to a near fall, and then they go for like another 5 or 10 minutes and you get a clean finish with like the interference like had no real bearing on the ending of the match, then I could sort of give it a pass. But when it's like leading right directly to the finish, then it does get a little bit more annoying. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any, unless either of you guys bring it up. Nothing comes to mind for me that was like in AEW that was, I guess, super egregious, but
that first fucking week. Are you kidding?
Oh yeah, that's exactly, yeah, that's right. Where Jon Moxley just came in and chased off Kenny Omega with like no.
That was one of the. I will be honest. I could not believe how much of a pass people gave that. Like there have been a couple times watching this promotion where I'm like, if WWE did that, like people would be fucking losing their shit, and that was one of them. Because I'm like, what the fuck? Like he came in and like it wasn't like it was a quick little thing. He beat the shit out of Kenny right in front of the ref. They fought all the way to the back. He put him through a glass table, and the match just kept going. I was just like, well, okay. It's like if they don't want DQs, that's fine. But like, then why doesn't everybody just gang attack everybody in the middle of every goddamn match? Like, I don't know. That was that to me was egregious.
Yeah, that's
honestly,
right.
The issue again is like they made such a big deal in the lead up about being, oh, it's going to be sports oriented, wins and losses matter. We're not going to do a bunch of goofy stuff. If they had just come out and said, there are literally no disqualifications in this promotion. We do not have a facility for calling a disqualification on a match. Like the refs just can't do it. Like then it all like works and makes sense. And you're just like, oh, well, the ref has to try and restore order without literally throwing the match off. No wonder, John Moxley is able to run in the middle of this match and distract Kenny Omega and fight him to the back. But they didn't do that. So again, now that we can probably reassess and say, okay, they're basically doing the New Japan style of the ref has to try and restore order, whether it's grabbing an iron finger away from Izuka or whatever, because he's just literally not going to call a DQ. They're just never going to do it. Now that we know that, then we can sort of reassess. They still like the stuff with, Joey Janela's ongoing feud with Sean Spears, where he keeps
that was this week.
doing these run-ins and stuff like that. That definitely grates on me and chafes on me, and it's like that's fucking stupid. But
why does the AEW lights guy just keep fucking turning the lights off for anybody who asks him? That's the biggest mystery. Like if we got a segment. We need a segment backstage where he opens off his dress shirt to reveal like a Sabu shirt. So he's like a huge Sabu mark, and that's why he fucking turn the lights off every week. Because Mike, it feels like they've done that fucking lights out shit a million times already.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 times. What he should do is he should have like a station set up in the back by the lights where he just has to determine how big a star the person is, because you can't do it for Sean Spears and Joey Janela and everybody else under the sun. It has to be a big fucking deal when you do the lights out thing. That's my take.
Yeah.
And I was saying, and just to go back just real quick to the expectations thing, when we were following the stuff that was happening in January and February, I really got the sense that a lot of people thought that AEW was just going to be American New Japan. And I could see why, maybe people in the New Japan circle sort of turned on the promotion after, Dynamite started, because that's not really what AEW is. So I can understand totally why they're sort of, they've definitely been sort of mismanaging the expectations and whatnot throughout.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I talk about the Super JCast server, people I think do have a reaction that are like, oh, of course they don't like it because, they're New Japan loyalists, which there definitely is that element to it. But if you look at 6 months ago, if you go to the All Elite channel on AEW, because they have a specific channel, the All Elite channel on the Super JCast server, that used to be like a war zone. And it used to be the people who already wanted to hate it and the people who already weren't fans of the Elite versus the Elite fans who there were people on there arguing no, give this a chance. It might be good. I love Kenny Omega, blah, blah, blah. 6 months later now, at the end of the year, there is no argument on that server anymore. The server is in pretty much, unanimous agreement that they don't like it.
Did all the AEW fans leave? Is that why?
No. There's some of them did, I think, but there are some people on there who I know are Kenny fans and I know are AEW fans and or I know they were Elite fans in New Japan at least, and they've turned on the promotion, and you can see the same people. So I think part of that also is because the one that was most important to New Japan Elite fans is Kenny, and Kenny has not exactly been pushed super hard in AEW so far, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But I think also a big part of that is just the promotion is not an American New Japan, and it's not really even close to an American New Japan.
No,
it is
not at all.
It is basically another, and I said this, and this is what made Mr. Bentley, I think, go off on me without mentioning me by name on this week's Everything Elite. It does feel like TNA 2 to me, and I think he thought when I said that in the Voice of Wrestling Flag, and some other people said the same thing. I think he took that as an insult, or I'm trying to say, well, the promotion's not going to go anywhere, or it is going to be what it is. I don't even necessarily mean that as an insult. I watched a lot of TNA back in the day and enjoyed it, but that's what it feels like to me. It feels like a promotion that's settling into that number 2 role in the U.S. that TNA abandoned, years ago, and isn't necessarily trying to do anything radically different from WWE. They're very much in that same, U.S. wrestling sphere. It just feels like they're trying to be WWE done a little better, which isn't hard because WWE is fucking
terrible.
Weeks ago, they're at their lowest point probably. at least main roster. But where you are at with AEW, I mean, if you were expecting anything other than, American wrestling, done better than WWE's been doing it, I totally get why you're not into it at all. Why you might be very even feel betrayed. Like I think some of the elite New Japan fans probably feel right now.
Well, so that was my take after All In, was really like, oh, they're doing sports entertainment better than the WWE, which isn't hard because you have to have dog shit in your head to do sports entertainment like the WWE. So that, to that extent, I think you're correct. Like it is TNA too, in that they are trying to do Major League American Pro Wrestling in the style of televised pro wrestling as we have come to expect it. But they're just trying to do it better than the WWE. And as you said, I think they're succeeding on that goal. Like they're really just trying to be WCW from the glory days. And there's a lot reminiscent of WCW in that way, which I enjoy, having been a WCW fan. My whole thing in the build up to AEW on our podcast was, I don't know how you do pro wrestling television live on a weekly basis and have it look anything like New Japan. New Japan is very dependent on these discrete tours with lots of undercard matches and a very low sort of build from people moving from the bottom toward the top of the card. And then it's all centered around these, seasonal tournaments. And I don't think you could do New Japan on TNT on a weekly basis. So, if you were expecting that, I'm sympathetic because being a New Japan fan, I would like to see it have a big platform. But New Japan doesn't have people come out and give interviews in the middle of the ring, except at the very end of the show. And TNT viewers and USA viewers and American pro wrestling fans, as we've trained them to watch on cable television, they expect that sort of stuff. So it doesn't fit in that hole for me.
I just don't think there was a way to get closer to it though than they did. Clearly, I think you could have done a tone of the show a lot different than the tone they've gone. I mean, when you look at this has been the big talking point lately, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. The 3 different spooky goth stables that are in the promotion, the goofier stuff. Like there's a lot of really, wacky stuff on the show, which is fine. I mean, that seems to be the direction they wanted to go in. But, I do think, I don't know if it was sold to people as we're going to have Evil Uno on the hotel closed circuit, recruiting. Or that's not Evil Uno. Whoever the fuck is that? Stu Grayson, the
I think that was
guy?
a random guy.
Oh, yeah. It's just a random guy. Okay,
I think so.
So the random Dark Order spokesperson on closed circuit television. We're gonna have Brandy doing fucking voodoo or whatever the fuck she's doing. I mean, it's very, very weird stuff, and that's fine if you're not. If you're into that, that's it's totally cool. But there is a lot more wackiness to it than I think people even expected.
And the thing with those groups is that there are ways and little different tweaks that you can make where more easily distinguishable from each other. Even say what you will about what they're doing with the Dark Order now, at least they're sort of trying to make them stand out a little bit with the whole, we bring in all the outcasts of society and everything like that. And for example, with the Butcher and the Blade, they did the story where MJF sort of paid them off to attack Cody. Well, a way you could distinguish them from, say, the Dark Order or whatever the hell Brandy is doing is that just to say, hey, they are sort of, in the same mold as the APA, where they do stuff for people and they sell their services to the highest bidder, and they're just, bounty hunters or whatever the term you want to use is, or they're just in it for the money. There are easy, you can have sort of those groups, but then just make it, and I think this goes to sort of my overall critique of AEW is that I think there are a lot of things they do that can be fixed with just the smallest of tweaks. And I think that is one of them. You could, with those groups, you could easily just make a couple of subtle changes and just make them, they can still be dark, but they could all be, somewhat different from each other.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that they tweaked the Dark Order already is a sign to be, or a reason to be positive about maybe them figuring it out. Dark Order was totally flat and dead in the water upon their debut. And then they put this Scientology spin on it. and then it's gotten progressively better reactions. I think
Yeah.
Stay away from the hanging out in the woods shit, and just focus on the weird hotel infomercial Scientology account card side of it. And then the Butcher and the Blade, they look spooky, but they've tried to, I think, establish that they're like mercenaries and have been hired now twice by MJF, so that's distinct in its own way. Really, I think the main culprit for the outcry against this is just the flat Brandy angle and it not working and it being awkward and it being weird. I think if you didn't have that and she was doing anything else, then all that other stuff would go down a lot smoother.
Yeah, the Nightmare Collective, I think, is the absolute low point of AEW so far, and I don't know if I haven't really seen anyone even defend that, and even people who like a lot of what AEW is doing, and it's just it hasn't been good. It's been very bad. It's taken forever just to get here, as far as fucking her and Kong, and where we are now is still not very good, and still feels like the worst thing on the TV every week. So, I mean, if that went away, I do think the TV would be a lot better forward. That's definitely been the biggest weak point so far. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But, so let's talk about the weekly TV, because the early stuff. I think we can wrap it up very quickly. Just to say, I think it's the least interesting thing looking back at it, because in hindsight, those early shows really did not tell you a whole hell of a lot about what the weekly TV was going to be, and even what the first pay-per-view during the TV era, I think, is very different than the pre-TV shows. So, I can wrap up my things on them very, very easily. Where Double or Nothing was a pretty good show. Fyter Fest I didn't like very much. Fight for the Fallen I thought sucked, and All Out I thought was pretty damn good. That's pretty much my thoughts on those four shows. I don't know if anyone wants to quickly say anything about them, but
I think Mike Spears on the Everything Elite podcast a couple times before TV started mentioned that sort of summer period was like AEW's preseason, and I think he's totally spot on with that. Because say what you will about all those shows, but the whole reason why the promotion was started is because or one of the reasons why is that Tony Khan felt like he could get a television deal for wrestling. So the real start of the promotion was October 2nd with the first Dynamite show, and then everything that came before that was just sort of setting up the pieces, getting everything together. Just like Mike said, it was basically the preseason.
So there you go. By the way, breaking news before we talk about Dynamite. Apparently, there's going to be an Ingobernable faction in ROH with Roosh, Dragon Lee, and Kenny King. So there you go. Kenny King.
I think we're at a point now where LIJ is the only true Ingobernable faction. I mean, it's cool that LA Park is in the AAA one, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, I did see that they were at least sort of teasing that with Kenny King, trying to, I guess, coerce Roosh and Dragon Lee. I saw some, I guess, theories that it could have been Roosh, Dragon Lee, Bandito, and Flamita. But I guess if the idea is that they want this sort of group to be heels, then, I guess Bandito and Flamita sort of run counter to that, because they seem like a very babyface tag team. So, that I guess that we saw that coming, but I guess maybe not with the people you were expecting.
Tough to put Flamita in there, just because as of Final Battle, he was still repping Tribe Vanguard.
Before we go week by week, here's what I want to say real quick about Dynamite. There's been people that have been booked better than others, and I think it's very clear of the elite guys. I mean, Cody has been the big star, and just I'm not really shocked at all that he's taken to weekly American television so well. I think that's kind of what he was always going to be much better at than he was going to be in New Japan. Kenny Omega, they haven't really figured out how to book him as a weekly television star yet. I don't know. Is that unfair? Does anyone take issue with that statement? It feels to me like he goes long stretches where he doesn't matter at all, and maybe that's because he's on Dark and they're using him to bump the YouTube views. But I mean, that John Moxley feud, it felt like he was feuding with him. It felt like Moxley was feuding with himself most of the way. It was very, very bizarre, that entire feud, as far as like what, it feels like they don't feel confident in Kenny to cut a promo in front of the live crowd. He only ever really cuts like pre-tapes, and it's just it doesn't seem like they've clicked with him yet as far as like how to figure out how to use him as a weekly TV wrestler. I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts on Kenny? I think that's a controversy.
I think that's fair. Again, our expectation going in was, Kenny Omega is going to be the ace of the promotion or the top babyface, and it's going to be, him and Jericho in the first title program and all this stuff. So any diversion from that was like a culture shock, I think. Having gone to the last two shows I just did here in Illinois, like he's still super over. Like he's still received like one of the top 3 or 4 people and receive like a star. Like when his music plays, people stand up and go wild for him. And that was even the case in Champaign, which is like, more of a central Illinois, southern area. But yeah, he just doesn't have the direction or the focus that I guess we anticipated for him. If you believe his interviews, a lot of that is his own doing, and that he's spending a lot of time producing the women's segments before he ever gets to his segment or his program or whatever. And then he said, he's gone on and on about he's not doesn't want for himself the role of being the focus of the television programming at this point in time, is instead trying to have fun being more versatile and working guys he's never worked and working styles he's never worked, like with the mixed tag match with Riho that he did, or the death match basically with John Moxley, and doing all that stuff that we never would have seen from him in New Japan. So yes, does not fit our expectations, but I think is still working to the degree that fans are still behind him and fans are still invested in him as a character. I think also probably part of that is a symptom of Cody, Jericho, and Moxley all doing better at the top of the card than anticipated. Like, I don't know if we expected that Moxley would be in that position at all, but they've all done a really good job at the top of the card, I think. So, if he's on the back burner for a while, I don't think it really hurts him.
Well, I'm not sure if it hurts him, but it just feels like even as a weekly TV wrestler who's not going to be a main eventer, I don't feel like they've found enough for him to do for his level of star power / hype going into this. Like, I don't know. You were more of a fan of him in New Japan than even I was probably, but I just rewatched before I recorded this, I was rewatching the Kenny and Naito 2017 G1 final, and I just have never gotten the feeling that Kenny Omega is in AEW. Like, they don't feel like the same person.
I don't think he hasn't had a big blow-away match like any of those Naito matches or Ishii matches or Ibushi matches or Tanahashi matches or Okada matches yet. But also he's been programmed mostly opposite Moxley. I mean, he did have a really good hardcore match with Moxley, but you're not going to get that sort of style from Moxley. And then his other big program was Pac, and Pac is just not doing those sort of big bomb-throwing epics. Like, he has a very deliberate sort of heel style. I mean, he's still like super exciting to watch, but he's not going out there like Naito and getting dropped on his head 13 times or diving, over the guardrail and into the crowd or anything like that. So yeah, he hasn't done anything yet, and I don't know if there's a guy on this promotion that he can match up like that with yet. But yeah, that's been, I think, a bit of a disappointment. That was part of the disappointment when I went to All Out, was like the Omega Pac match just didn't match that Major League New Japan top level match level that I wanted it to get to.
Yeah, and I don't even, the match quality is obvious. That's very obvious. I just mean also, like, from his, I don't know, like, he felt like such an enormous star coming out of that match with the Young Bucks, and just like there was something about that persona. He was more over even than he's been. Not that he's not over in AEW, but like, he's not the most over in AEW. In this building, I mean, he was almost as over as Naito in that Sumo Hall. And I was there also, so I can, give the first hand too. I mean, he was like, there were some super, super passionate Kenny fans there. And he's still over in AEW, but he does not feel like that level of star at all. And, I'm sure part of that's his booking. But, like, again, to get back, all the way back around to it, I think there is an assumption on the part of AEW fans, and I hear this, again, from Joe Lanza, from other people all the time, that the moment they go to heat him up and put the title on him, presumably next year at some point, it'll just be great, and the fans will take to it immediately, and he'll be the top guy, and it'll work on American television. I'm not convinced it will, and I'm not convinced he is, he'll be ready for that, first of all, or that it'll feel natural, or that they know how to book him as a top weekly American star. If they're going to put him out there and he's going to do these promos like Cody and Jericho, and even like an MJF does, that's one thing. If they're finally going to because I think he's actually a better promo than some people give him credit for, but so far they've shown no willingness to send him out there and do promos in front of a live crowd. So if he's not going to do the promos, which is like a huge part of being a top AEW star so far, and he's not, they don't have the wrestlers to match him up with, because again, and this is my own personal preference talking again, but I think, I don't even think very many people would argue with the statement that the AEW roster is not, even close to the same level as the New Japan roster. But there aren't a lot of people to match him up against. What is he at that point? And I think he carries himself a certain way, which is good, and he's riding that reputation of the best wrestler, to a certain segment of the world. But I don't know what's going to make him stand out, as that top star. If it's not going to be the promos and it's not going to be the matches, at that point, you're just talking about a reputation, right? Like, what is it at that point? So,
yeah, for me, ever since when they announced that Kenny versus Jericho was the main event at Double or Nothing, I thought, okay, that made sense because they're doing the rubber match from New Japan. Jericho's going to win, and they're going to do a third match. And then when they announced that it was sort of this title eliminator thing, then I thought that, okay, Jericho is definitely going to win, and Omega is going to win the title from him in the eventual rubber match. And I still think that. I still think that's the direction they're eventually going to get to, whether that be, at Double or Nothing in 2020 or maybe even All Out. I don't know. But, it seems like to me that if they know that they're going to give Kenny the title, or he's going to be the one to beat Jericho down the line, okay, fine. But it feels like, they're not sure what to do with him in the interim. I mean, they had that feud with Moxley where he sort of wasn't really didn't seem to be all that into it at certain points. But, especially now after that, he did just start the thing with Paige, but it seems like that, it just seems like they're just trying to kill time with him, I guess.
Can I ask, what the fuck was supposed to happen if Kenny hadn't, or if John Moxley hadn't gotten that injury right before All Out?
All Out.
Let's say Kenny, do we just switch the two matches? Was it supposed to be Kenny and Moxley at All Out and Kenny and Pac at, or Pac or whatever the fuck, at Full Gear? Or, because I have a conspiracy theory about this, and I may have said this in the air before, I don't even know. I think they thought they were going to be able to do business with New Japan, which they clearly did at one point. And they thought Kenny, or at the very least, because Kenny has that clause in his contract, I think they thought Kenny was going to be hyping up a Wrestle Kingdom match right now, and that was going to keep him, in the headline, so to speak, and in the wrestling fan consciousness. And they didn't have to book him as a top guy because he was going to be in a top match at Wrestle Kingdom, whether it's probably Ibushi, or whoever the fuck else. And clearly New Japan decided not to do that. So, they didn't decide they didn't want to call him for Wrestle Kingdom, which, turned out, I think, to be the right decision, since, tickets are still moving very well for the Wrestle Kingdom, both nights of Wrestle Kingdom. But so that just left them with nothing basically for Kenny to do. And, maybe because if you take everything Kenny's done on Dynamite together, and then, which has not been a ton, but he's had, he had that match with Janela that was pretty good. He had a couple other matches, and obviously the Moxley match of Full Gear was awesome. But if you put all that together, plus right now we're all getting ready for Kenny and Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom, or Kenny and Naito, or Kenny, whatever the fuck, or Kenny Okada, whatever you want to say, or even Kenny Ospreay, because that one's been hyped up lately. If you put that on top of everything he's done in AEW, I think people would think very differently of Kenny Omega's year and the end of this year right now. But I don't know. That's my little conspiracy theory.
Maybe. I mean, again, who knows what would have happened if Moxley was able to go at All Out in Chicago, and how that might have changed. Because as far as I know, up until they canceled the match, that was always going to be just a regular match, right? It wasn't going to be this lights out thing. Yeah. So, I guess very hard to tell. But I guess just to close quick on Kenny before we move on, I really enjoyed some of the stuff he's done on TV, and I think as far as the wrestling, I just think that's because I think I'm not the first person to mention this. I've seen other people mention it too. I feel like Kenny's more explosive style, particularly with some of the things that he does, I feel like that lends itself more to a TV match. I really felt that in the second Genoa match, where I just really enjoy that. So as far as the wrestling, I think Kenny, obviously he's not doing what he's been doing or what he did in New Japan, but as a whole, his work on Dynamite hasn't bothered me that much.
I think he's been probably the best TV worker on Dynamite. I don't understand why I don't put him on more.
Yeah, like I said, I just feel like his whatever it is, I just feel like his style suits itself more to a 10-minute TV match.
I think Kenny's great when he's on there. I don't know why they don't put him on more, but they don't. I mean, look, the roster is not really my thing, and I don't think that's really shocking news to people who know my taste in wrestling. It's filled with a lot of people that are fine, but not a lot of people that are that I'm super into. But yeah, I think Kenny, Kenny would, not that he wasn't my favorite in New Japan, but he's pretty close to top for me in AEW, and I don't know why they don't use him more, even though he doesn't have maybe could just be he doesn't have a ton of great matchups or something. But
I mean, they've obviously have not made the call to make him their top guy, but I do think he has the AAA Mega Championship. He's doing defenses of that on Dark and stuff, and I think that's a pretty decent way to sort of maintain his importance level while he's not being focused on in the world title picture in AEW. So but part of reputation is part of being treated like a star anyway. Having other people react to somebody like a star, it makes you more of a star. So I think he's fine. I think he'll get his big push back to that top level over the coming year or whatever. And I think probably the matches aren't going to get to the level of that New Japan thing, but I saw that Kenny Omega versus Kip Sabian match in Champaign and was like, hey, that was pretty good. That's a nice little go-home match for the end of your taping here. But people online, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, that's the best match I've had on Dark so far, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think he's violating a lot of people. I don't think he's disappointing a whole lot of people.
Well, depends on where you look, I guess. The other thing I want to say too is the thing that by far I think got some of the most buzz is that weird video Kenny did on the 5th episode of Dynamite. And remember, so he does the Undertale video, the Undertale theme video with the New Japan, the weird New Japan line mark and the Ibushi silhouette. And people went crazy for exactly one day. And Dave Meltzer at first adds to it because he goes on the air, I think on Observer Radio, and says something well, they wouldn't do that if they didn't have a deal in place. And the next day he's actually, I've been told they don't have a deal in place. And it was just Kenny letting off steam or whatever. I just thought that was it's a really interesting one, because if you, again, talking about alternate universes, if that was step one on a long path towards the Kenny Ibushi blow off, or the New Japan guys showing up to fucking go after Kenny, I do think the excitement level will be pretty high, and as you can see in that one little day. So maybe it can still happen someday, but clearly right now it is not going to happen, as we can see with the increasingly bitter whole they stopped me at the border and tried to ban me from the country thing.
But, yeah, I think people like Dave Meltzer want the AEW New Japan thing to happen really badly, but just for a variety of factors. The fact that they're aligned with Mexican promotions that have hated each other for decades is one, and now the fact that New Japan is running more often than the US. I mean, they're basically a competitor in the United States now to a certain degree. So
yeah, it's very interesting though. Like that video, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have done it, but it does look really weird when when you don't have any kind of. I mean that video made like Kenny Ibushi look like the biggest thing, and clearly they don't have any ability to deliver that match. So a little.
I thought it was. I thought it was a really cool video. It just, like you said, it was weird.
Yeah.
It was him being, extra and a little catty, and I enjoy that in my pro wrestling. The real important thing, though, is he should use Megalovania for his theme music all the time because it's much better than what he has. Yeah,
his theme music's not very good. I thought it was okay the first time I heard it, but like it just sounds okay in comparison because like so much of the AEW theme music is really terrible. So
yeah, that's I should amend my answer. That's my biggest disappointment with the promotion is almost all the music is bad outside of like Jericho. Cody is like good in a butt rock way, and then Darby probably has the actual best song. Like almost all the rest of it is just really bad.
So Kenny's like stands out as just being a song that someone clearly put more than 5 seconds of thought into, but that doesn't mean it's good. So there you go.
I mean, I like Kenny's theme, but I wouldn't disagree with making Megalovania his theme song.
So we talked a while already. Let me see about going. I don't know if we have to go week by week. What's everybody's highlight so far from the Dynamite's run? I mean, I would say my highlight was probably Jericho and Darby, which I thought that world title match was so awesome. And the build the previous week with Darby like skateboarding down and kicking his ass was probably still my favorite moment of Dynamite so far. So if I had to pick one highlight from Dynamite, that would definitely be it for me.
Yeah, my highlight in short is what they've done with Darby to this point, that being like the peak, and then now they're moving it into aligning him with Cody, it seems like. But yeah, they took a guy in Darby who would have been embarrassingly misused in the WWE and would have been doing the cringiest Aleister Black segments or whatever on that television, and like have already turned him into like their obvious star of the future. And being a longtime Darby fan, that's been super exciting.
Sean, what's your highlight of Dynamite so far?
In terms of a match or
anything, whatever you want to.
Okay, I guess in terms of a match, I would say that the Young Bucks Private Party match from the second week is probably my favorite match, just because it's sort of very much the kind of wrestling that I enjoy the most, I guess, and they put Private Party over in a big way. So I'd say that would be my match highlight. And then I guess for outside of matches, I would say that Chris Jericho has like objectively just been the MVP of this entire show. Like everything he does, promo wise or video wise or whatever has been pretty fantastic, I would say. Or even if some of it isn't as good as other stuff he does, I think in general, he's like been the best character on the show.
Yeah, that's fair. The one big, I don't know, we've already done a lot of complaints, so I can't say the one big complaint, but a complaint I think is how fast they did the MJF turn. Like I really wish like they had done, MJF throwing the towel on Cody was great. I just wish they hadn't done the turn right afterwards. I wish they had like drawn it out for a few weeks of like, oh, is MJF, did he throw the towel in because he's an asshole, or did he throw it in because, he was concerned for his friend? And I think they could have gotten like a solid month out of that at least. That's why like MJF kicking on the balls is probably my least favorite moment, because it just feels like they wasted what could have been like a really fun, like, did he do that because he's an asshole heel or because he was concerned for his friend type of thing. So.
Yeah, I wanted them to wait on that for like a year. I mean, it ended up being pretty well executed when they actually did it, with like the drink being thrown at MJF and everything there. But would have been fun. Like MJF was so fun in that will he or won't he sort of position that it was kind of a shame to lose that already. Yeah, I don't know if I have a big disappointment. I guess I guess they've I think prioritized their women to this point, and I think that's another criticism that we've heard all over the place. But I would not give they have so little time to begin with. Like, they don't have 6 hours a week, they have 2 hours a week. So there's a lot of good things they do, like on their Twitter or on their YouTube or whatever, that just don't make it onto the television because there's not time. But I think giving so much of the women's time to the Brandy act, to the Britt Baker act, has kind of worked against them in trying to establish that. But I think their most recent signings of Big Swole and Chris Statlander are like a good indication that they're moving in the right direction on that.
That's fair. Sean, do you have any big disappointments so far?
I guess just to touch on the MJF thing briefly, I mean, I certainly agree that they could have dragged it out a little longer, but I'm sort of indifferent on it as well. Like, I didn't mind that they did it then, but I don't disagree that they could have held it off for a little longer. I guess as far as disappointments go, I guess to just sort of echo what Nate said, the women's division, some of it has not been good, but I think we'll talk about the women's division more later on. I think it's just more has had to do with the fact that the certain talents have done better than others. And for me personally, and I noticed this like several weeks ago, I think it's pretty clear as to what the big difference is. But I like Nate said, I think they are sort of starting to move in the right direction by hiring better women to be on the roster and sort of switching the roles of the women who aren't as good, like Allie to a lesser extent and Penelope Ford are now just sort of managers now. They don't really do a lot of wrestling, but
they're not dropping the Britt Baker push, because I hate to tell people she's winning this week because 1-1, what's her name, is booked already. Chris Statlander is booked on Bar Wrestling. So,
that's right.
Well, I wouldn't put it past them to pull people from Bar Wrestling, because they have pulled people from other indie dates. But no, I don't think the Britt Baker push is stopping either. I think she's earmarked to be a top level person for them, and has been since they started the promotion. I think the hope with her is that she needs way more reps, and one night a week isn't enough reps, I don't think.
Yeah, so, not even one night a week.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
Okay, so let's talk about the women's division real quick before we move on. I'm really tired of them, of like the critique being, I don't see what's so good about these Joshi wrestlers. It's like, you have to understand, you're taking wrestlers out of their own, context and putting them in an entirely new context. And, some of them are going to be better than others. First of all, Riho's like super fucking over anyway. So the complaint really, and Hikaru Shida is pretty over too. So the big complaint, I guess, is Emi Sakura. And like, look, Emi Sakura is not wrestling the same way she's going to wrestle on a Gato Move show. And, all three of the Joshi, and really all of them so far, I think, have held back compared to how they wrestle in Japan. They are not hitting each other or hitting other wrestlers nearly as hard as they would in Japan. I think that's very clear to anyone who watches any amount of Joshi, that they're, they like Riho's like drop kicks. If you watch her in Gato Move or Stardom, like the drop kicks are just way more stiff in Stardom than they are here. And Hikaru Shida, same goes for her kicks and stuff. So I don't know. I assume that's a directive. I don't know why else they would just do that on their own. But like, two of them have gotten over. Emi hasn't really gotten over, but Emi might be gone now anyway. But the people who like to beat up on her, right? It sounds like she might be going back to Japan.
That's funny that's the criticism you're tired of hearing, because that's one that I've never heard before.
Oh, Joe Landa really hates Emi.
Yeah, Joe.
Okay. So yeah, I don't engage in the Slack or anything, but I do have I agree that Emi has not been super well suited for her position, because she's doing like fun crowd pleasing hijinks, and she's been positioned as a heel in all of her feuds and matches to this point. So I understand, like, the American crowd is not either smart enough or well versed enough in that sort of trickster role to make it get over to the level that you would like to see it get over. Also, she wants people to sing along with her Freddie Mercury stuff, and American fans just don't know how to sing. It's not like we have soccer culture here. So
yeah.
I
want to point that out, because I've heard that critique. I will say, not just from Joe. like on Twitter, I've seen it too. Like people are like, oh, I don't get the deal about this Emmy Sakura person. I'm like, well, you're not seeing her in her actual original context. You're seeing her doing a weird Freddie Mercury thing in AEW. It's a little different. But anyway, that's my little rant.
Yeah, I guess for me, like I mentioned the sort of the difference that I've noticed with the women's division. For me, it just, and like I said earlier, it really stuck out to me in the first after the first couple weeks. Pretty much all of the international talent, with the exception of, I guess, Sadie Gibbs, because her matches on Dark have been like heavily edited, and I think I think you can read into that, what you will, but pretty much all the international talents, save for her, have all been like universally good. Whereas, and just for the record, this is excluding the recent signings of Big Swole and Chris Statlander, where, I think the majority of the North American talents that they have signed have generally not been that good. I mean, who, out of that bunch, the original bunch they signed after they lost Kylie Ray, who were the best women in the division from stateside, would it be like Nyla Rose, maybe? It's like who out of the North American talents, like who is, like, again, before they signed like Big Swole and Chris Statlander, like who's the best wrestler of that bunch? Because I don't think any of them are particularly good.
Honestly, having seen like a pretty good amount of them, and I would maybe disqualify Nyla because she also worked Joshi.
Right.
I think the person who I'd seen have the best matches before AEW started was Allie. But that's also sort of a big grind my gears segment that I do on the Everything Elite podcast, is like, you kind of have to control for the fact that the WWE killed women's wrestling in the United States for like a generation plus. Like, you can't let that go unsaid and be like, oh, well, why aren't there any good Western women? It's like, oh, because the WWE killed women's wrestling, in this hemisphere for my entire adult life. That's why.
Okay, so there you go. Do we want to talk about the tag division really quick? I think that's probably been the highlight, as far as like, if anything has been the overwhelming success so far, it's probably been that. And they have a million teams, and they've really done a good job picking some good teams to push, like the Lucha Brothers, like Proud and Powerful, the Young Bucks there. I think it's the one thing on the show that so far that's been like close to a total success so far. And maybe the Young Bucks are going to win the belts from SCU next week. Maybe they won't, but I think it's I don't know. I really don't have much to complain about here compared to, and I know I've done a lot of complaining about AEW on this podcast, but I think it's been really good, and probably, I don't know, the best tag division in the world, pretty close, if not.
Yeah, the tag division was my pick for the most recent episode of our podcast, talking about positives of the promotion, because the Young Bucks are pretty reliable for a pretty entertaining match in whatever position you put them in. The Lucha Brothers are like two individual huge stars who also are very fun as a tag team. Santana and Ortiz are like the most entertaining up and coming act in pro wrestling, and have been probably over the last like 18 months or so. And then, Private Party has all the potential in the world. They had like the Butcher and the Blade, who, what I appreciate about that is they brought them in as a unit, like, and just like maintained that tag team continuity. I just kind of appreciate that respect for the team, instead of being like, oh, well, let's pull Andy Williams out of there and do something. Even their jobber team, like John Silver's a pretty good guy to have as like a jobber underneath. My maybe criticism here would be, do you want SCU as the champion of that division? Maybe you don't. Maybe the Luchasaurus injury made them change their bookings in the tag team tournament. But even then, like Scorpio Sky did a pretty good job getting over in that tournament with him being plugged in there. So yeah, I'm very positive on the tag team division overall.
Yeah, SCU is very, very far from my favorite act, but at least, they're over. So I don't really have a problem with them as tag champions, especially if it ends up being a short-term thing. So
true.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. The tag team division has been pretty good throughout this entire run so far.
Yeah, so not much to complain about there. Going week by week, let's see. I'm looking at the results. I'm trying to see if I can think of my favorite and my least favorite episode. The episode I think I have as my least favorite was probably one that a lot of people loved, which was the post Full Gear episode. I just remember really hating that show, and that was like the first time I really thought like, wow, I don't know if I want to keep watching this every week. Because I don't know, just felt like there was like no good wrestling at all. The promos went on forever and were not very interesting, and it was probably the only week of the show that felt like a total fucking slog to get through. So that was like Dynamite number 7. As far as my favorite episode, I think it was probably the third one in Philly, because there you have Riho retaining against Britt Baker, which was great. You had the Jericho Darby street fight, which is my favorite match on television so far by quite a bit, and that tag match was really good too. Paige and Omega against Moxley and Pac. So yeah, that's probably my favorite episode, the third one on October 16th. Anyone else have a favorite or least favorite episode?
I really don't. That Philly episode does stand out because of the Jericho Darby match. The Moxley and Darby episode from October, late October, October 20 maybe, was also, I think, a pretty strong episode. I have not had a episode where I came away from it yet going, I wish I hadn't bothered watching that. Like I feel like every episode has at least respected my time, which is the opposite of the other major league promotion.
Yeah, I mean that was the only the week I mentioned was the only one I think I've really really hated, and even the other shows that are just like a lot of the other episodes have just been kind of there for me, but not to the point where I'm just like, oh, I can never watch this fucking thing again. So I don't know, Sean, do you have any least favorite episode thoughts?
I think in hindsight I sort of agree with John with that Nashville episode right after Full Gear. Not
really. It seemed like everybody else loved that episode.
Well, to be clear for me, like I don't think there's been a bad episode. I think they've all been good, just varying degrees of good. I think. I think I would put that as the least, only because it didn't have a ton of really standout matches. Like I'm just looking at it on Cage Match right now, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches, and 3 of them were like really like squash matches. I guess the best match on that show was the Pac and Adam Page match, which I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think that match was probably the best of their entire series, at least for me. Or maybe it's close between that match and the Full Gear match, but I thought it was a very good match. But I liked the promo stuff on that show. I guess it's just that the in-ring wasn't, there's nothing really stand out, at least for me. As far as the best, some of them have already been said already. The Philly episode was pretty good with the Darby Street fight. I really liked the second episode where they had, the Private Party Young Bucks match and the introduction of the Inner Circle. Anything that sort of ended, anything that's had like one of those Inner Circle like brawl segments to end the show has been pretty good. I remember the Charlotte episode right before Full Gear that had that wild brawl to end the show. I really enjoyed that. And I think as far as like in ring, I think an underrated one is probably week 8 in Indianapolis, because that had the Ray Phoenix Nick Jackson match in the opener, and then you also had Jon Moxley and Darby Allin in the main event. The rest of the stuff on that show sort of looks a little middling, but it's you started off and ended with 2 great matches on that show.
And I do want to say too, one last thing before we move on to awards. Full Gear, not a good show. Was not a fan. So that always, Moxley and Omega kind of saved it to a degree, but the rest of that show was not very into it. And I can't believe I forgot to mention this until now. Please, for the love of God, stop pushing 10 Guy. That's my next big complaint after Brandy. Please get him the fuck off my television. I cannot stand that man. He's not a good heel. He's not entertaining. He doesn't make me want to see someone get his ass kicked. He just makes me want to fucking turn the TV off. So please stop with 10 Guy. No more Sean Spears. Thank you. Because I saw his name on the Full Gear card. And again, I'm reminded they used a fucking pay-per-view spot to put Sean Spears over Joey Janela. He fucking sucks. Enough with 10 Guy. Anyway, any other thoughts on Full Gear? Anything else before I move on to the awards?
No, I mean, I did like Full Gear. Honestly, the Omega match was like not my favorite part of it. I thought it kind of meandered. But I really enjoyed the undercard of that match with the Young Bucks and Santana Ortiz match. And then that had my favorite Pac versus Page match on it. I just really enjoyed myself watching that show. So take that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I liked Full Gear as well, though I will say that I think up until I think it really needed those last 3 matches to be great. If those the women's match, Cody and Jericho, and then the main event, I think if those 3 matches just did not deliver at all, then I think we would have been looking at that show a lot differently.
All right. So that means we're going to move over to the awards. So for these awards, either Ring of Honor or AEW is eligible, obviously. If anyone wants to try to argue Ring of Honor was a winner in anything. I'm going to, first of all, I will say for Match of the Year, I thought about trolling and saying my favorite Ring of Honor AEW Match of the Year is Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi from the G1 Supercard, because it would win by a mile. But I'm gonna say the New Japan stuff on G1 Supercard is not eligible, so I can do a top 5 of, pretty much an AEW top 5, because I don't have anything for Ring of Honor that cracked this top 5. So, do you guys both have a top 5 as well?
Yes.
Okay. So start out with 5th place. In 5th, I have a match that was divisive, the first ever AEW World Title match, Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page from August 31st at the Sears Center at All Out. I went 4 stars flat in this match. I thought it was pretty awesome. I got a lot of the critiques about it, but I thought it was it had that big fight feel to it. And even though the crowd was not very into it after the, ladder match craziness, they won the crowd over by the end, which was, always good to see. And I thought it was, really well paced and really well laid out. And, I didn't really I thought it blew away the Jericho Omega match from Double or Nothing, which I didn't think was that great. But this of Jericho's, 3 pay-per-view matches, this is by far my favorite. So Jericho versus Page, All Out, number 5. Sean, what do you have for number 5 match of the year?
Number 5 for me is the Lights Out match between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega from Full Gear.
Okay. And what do you have at 5 here, Nate?
5, I have the Joshi Trios match from Double or Nothing. Hikaru Shida, Riho, and Ryo Mizunami versus Aja Kong, Emi Sakura, and Yuka Sakazaki. I couldn't decide between which Riho match basically to put in here, because I've really enjoyed a lot of her matches. The Nyla Rose match and then the triple threat with Nyla and Yuka were all top line. But this trios match, I thought, because of the crowd reaction and because of the atmosphere, put it above the rest of them.
In 4th place, I have the AEW World Title Street Fight, which I realize now is actually my second favorite match on Dynamite, because there's a match I have rated higher. But it was Chris Jericho versus Darby Allin from Dynamite number 3, October 16th in Philadelphia. I went 4 stars flat on this as well. Just an awesome wild brawl, 15-minute match, so it actually got some time. This one of the highlights of because the television to me hasn't been filled with 4-star matches. It's been a lot more 3 or 3.5, and sometimes even lower. But this was one of the best matches they've had on their TV so far. What do you have for 4th place, Sean?
My 4th place match is Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros from Double or Nothing.
Okay. And Nate, 4th place?
Number 4, I also have Chris Jericho versus Darby Allin, the Dynamite Street Fight.
All right. 3rd place, I have a match you just mentioned, Hikaru Shida, Riho, and Ryu Mizunami versus Aja Kong, Emi Sakura, and Yuka Sakazaki from Double or Nothing. Again, 4 stars flat for me. You just talked about it, so no reason to keep going into it, but I thought this was a great match. Sean, 3rd place?
My 3rd place match is the Young Bucks versus Private Party from AEW Dynamite Episode 2 on October 9th.
And Nate?
Number 3, I have the Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks ladder match from All Out. Unlike Sean, I am not very high on ladder matches and pretty much hate them. and I was not looking forward to this match at all, but it totally won me over and blew me away.
I do also hate ladder matches, so that one's not on my list. Number 2, Emi Sakura and Jamie Hayter versus Riho and Shauna from Dynamite number 6 on November 6th in Charlotte. I went 4.25. I thought this was an awesome match, and this is the best TV match. I've totally forgot about it when I talked about Jericho and Darby being the best TV match they've done so far. But I believe this was Shauna's debut, and she really just jumped off the screen right away. Jamie Hayter's awesome. It's someone I've always really loved from Stardom. And this was just an awesome, awesome tag match. The best thing on Dynamite so far. Go ahead, Sean. Number 2.
My number 2 match is the brother versus brother match from Double or Nothing, Cody versus Dustin Rhodes.
And go ahead, Nate. Number 2.
Number 2, I have from Full Gear, Chris Jericho versus Cody. Was a super entertaining match with Cody landing on his face and then the super hot angle afterward.
And my number 1 match is Cody versus Dustin Rhodes from Double or Nothing on May 25th. This is my only 4.5-star match in AEW so far. I thought this was incredible. The blood really elevated it, but you also still had like Dustin doing a fucking, was it a Canadian Destroyer or a Sunset Flip Powerbomb or something? I think it was a Sunset Flip Powerbomb. But either way, it was incredible. And just like very old school type of match, but just it really, really worked. And, the crowd was so into it and it elevated it to like another level. So this is my clear cut AEW match of the year. And I guess better than anything I've seen in Ring of Honor. Go ahead, Sean. What's your number 1?
Okay, so my number 1 match for AEW this year is the ladder match from All Out between the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks. I like Nate said, I do still like ladder matches, but it very much depends on who's in the ladder match, I guess you could say. And I love both the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers, so it sort of like fit right in my zone, I guess. And I guess just for the record, for my top 5, 2 through 5, I had it all at 4.5, and the ladder match was 4.75 for me.
All right, Nate, number 1.
Number 1, I also have Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes, brother versus brother for Double or Nothing. I don't do star ratings really. My only star ratings are how memorable something is to me, whether it sticks in my memory or not. This is probably a match that I will remember for the rest of my life, being that it was on the first AEW show and it was super good. So in that regard, it was a 5-star perfect match.
All right. So up next, we'll do Best Major Show. 3rd place, I have All Out. 2nd place, I went with Double or Nothing. And 1st place, I broke my own rule and gave it to G1 Supercard because as bad as the ROH half was, I would still take the New Japan half over any AEW major show. Go ahead, Sean, I guess give your whole top 3.
So I guess we can include Dynamite episodes if we so choose.
No Dynamite episodes.
Oh, no Dynamite episodes?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I think my number 3 is going to be Fyter Fest. Number 2 would be All Out, and number 1 would be Double or Nothing.
Okay.
All right. Number 3, also Fyter Fest. Number 2, I had Full Gear, and number 1, I had Double or Nothing.
For Best Feud, I had real trouble coming up with a 3rd place. So I went with Cody and Dustin against the Young Bucks because I was very entertained by some of those segments on YouTube where the Cody and Dustin felt like Young Bucks were mocking them or whatever. That was pretty funny. 2nd, I went with Cody versus Dustin. That was just a great little mini feud leading to Double or Nothing. And in 1st place, I went with what I think is a pretty clear choice here, which is Chris Jericho versus Cody. Really just made those first few weeks of TV and really made it very entertaining. So, Sean?
All right. So had a little trouble coming up with a 3rd best feud as well. So I ended up going with the Young Bucks versus Proud and Powerful, sort of part of the whole Elite Inner Circle feud. But I've enjoyed pretty much all the stuff that they've done so far with that. Number 2, I went with Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks just because they for me, there was a few that just had like great matches throughout. And I didn't mention it because it wasn't in my top 5, but I also really enjoyed the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid versus the Elite match from Fyter Fest. So you can include that as part of that overall feud as well. Like, to me, they just had the best matches as far as the feud went. And then number 1, I also have Cody and Jericho, just for their, how it really carried that first, 6 weeks of TV. And, just all the stuff that they did was pretty good. And the Jericho, for me, the highlight of the whole thing was the Jericho parody video they did, which was pretty hilarious.
Nate?
All right. I'm pretty much the same. Number 3, I had Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros. Great matches. Number 2, I put the Young Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz here. Just great to see Santana and Ortiz get to show all their shit on such a big stage. And number 1, Chris Jericho versus Cody.
Tag team of the year, I went with the Best Friends in third. I had a lot of trouble picking a third place here, so whatever. I went with the Young Bucks in second, and I went with the Lucha Bros in first. Could exchange those two easily, but I just like the Lucha Bros slightly more. So there you go. Sean?
So we're doing top 3 for tag teams, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So third, I would have Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz. First and second is interesting for me because I have Lucha Brothers in second and Young Bucks in first. But if we were talking just in the Observer Award sense of overall throughout the year, I would have Lucha Brothers well above the Young Bucks just because the Young Bucks didn't wrestle for the first 5 months of the year outside of Wrestle Kingdom. But I guess if we're just talking AEW exclusively, then Young Bucks for sure for me are the tag team of the year.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, I think. Number 3, I have Santana and Ortiz. Number 2, I put the Lucha Brothers. But yeah, if we're just looking at it from AEW exclusively, I have to put the Young Bucks at number 1 because they've anchored so many great Dynamite segments that the Lucha Brothers just haven't had the opportunity to do.
Most outstanding wrestler, I went with Hikaru Shida in third. Chris Jericho in second, which might be surprising to people, but I thought he's the only wrestler other than I guess Riho and Shida to appear twice on my match of the year list, so I just gave it to him. And I went with Riho in first. I think she's been the best in-ring wrestler in AEW so far.
Am I going
Sean?
next?
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Okay. So I just to go a little inside here, I did not have this entire list prepared for me, or I didn't properly prepare just because I was working. Like I said earlier, I was working on the. Or I might have mentioned earlier, I was working on the Final Battle review for most of the day, so I didn't really have the chance to really think about it. But I think I'm gonna put I have a little cobbled list here together. So number 3, I'm actually gonna give it to Chris Statlander, just because I think she's been objectively the best North American woman on the roster, and I think she has the potential to really fill the hole that Kylie Ray left when she, mysteriously disappeared from the promotion. And I really think that she has the chance to be the top women's star in AEW if they use her right. Number 2, I actually have not both Young Bucks, but just Nick Jackson, and that's solely based off the match he had with Phoenix on Dynamite that I thought was spectacular. And just, we've seen the Young Bucks teaming for so long, and like they mentioned on TV, they haven't wrestled singles matches in up until that point, they hadn't wrestled a singles match since Best of the Super Juniors, years and years ago. So I think that match sort of showed that, oh yeah, these guys can totally do singles matches if they wanted to. And then number 1, just because I think he's, as far as spectacular wrestlers goes, he's one of the best out there. I put Phoenix number 1 just because anytime you put him on a match on TV, I'm glued to the television just to see what he does. He's just an incredible talent, and it's sort of annoying that in the Observer Wars he's sort of gotten miffed for like best high flyer in favor of Will Ospreay and like Kota Ibushi and those people. Like not to say that those aren't great high flyers, because they absolutely are. But you watch Phoenix, and man, that guy is he's a special wrestler.
All right, Nate.
All right, I put Riho at number 3. I had Ray Phoenix actually at number 2. Nick Jackson, of course, also a very good worker, but he just didn't have the singles opportunities that Phoenix did. And number 1, because I'm a huge mark, Darby Allin.
All right. Wrestler of the year, so this would like include MVP, that kind of thing. With Riho in 3rd, I thought she got way over as their women's champion, more than I would have ever guessed. And, she's had a lot of great matches. Cody in 2nd, he's been a great babyface ace for them, even if I'm not personally into many of his matches at all, other than the Dusted one. But he does have a 4.5-star match going for him, I guess, which is more than you can say in New Japan. And Chris Jericho in 1st, because again, he's led the company as champion. Promos have been the best thing on the show. And, he's had some surprisingly good matches, along with some that, again, I wasn't as into, like the Kenny and the Jericho match, the Scorpio Sky match. But, as far as this company is not a work rate company, especially not for me personally. So I can overlook it and say he's clearly the AEW Wrestler of the Year, even though I don't think he's going to sniff my overall list.
Sean? Okay, so number 3 for me is Jon Moxley. Some of his stuff on Dynamite has been squashes, but I feel like when he's been given the opportunity, to have great matches, he's had great matches. And then just in general, like just him like showing up and like giving AEW all this like added buzz that it just added to the buzz that they already had. Makes him an easy number 3 for me. Number 2 is Cody, sort of self-explanatory. This year really made me look back at his Ring of Honor run and realize that he was totally miscast in Ring of Honor as a heel. Like, how has this guy like not been a babyface? How is he not a babyface during that Ring of Honor run? I don't know, because he's great at it, and he's like I think you mentioned, he's clearly been like the best babyface in the promotion. And then number 1 is Chris Jericho. I mean, he's been like the clear MVP, and I would sort of question anyone who doubts that he's the MVP of this promotion, just because everything he does is or I guess 99% of the things he does are fantastic. And it just makes me think that I think I'm not the first person to mention this, but it's crazy that we were sort of denied like this sort of creative freedom Chris Jericho in WWE for so long. And it's like, man, imagine how good this guy could have been if he, in all those years in WWE, had been given like just more creative freedom, the sort of creative freedom that he has in AEW. Like everyone like considers him an all-time great, but he could have been like even more so if he had been had that creative freedom for a lot longer.
Yeah, that really goes for all 3 of those guys. Those are my picks too. Just like amazing to see them with a new coat of paint, having been released from the WWE and being free to do the wrestling they want to do. So yeah, I have 3 Jon Moxley, 2 Cody, 1 Chris Jericho.
All right. So that'll do it for the awards. Let's go over to the questions. Same thing I said last week. If your question was pretty much already covered, and that's why I'm skipping it. So I apologize in advance if I did skip your question. Let's see.
John, actually, before you go into the questions, I just want to make a quick note, because I do have I have TLC on my phone, and I just want to bring this up, that they're doing a Viking Raiders Guns and Gallows match where they had I'm not joking, they had a group of people sitting at a KFC table at ringside eating like KFC, and now they are putting Carl Anderson through a KFC table.
All right.
Really plugging that KFC.
Let's see. At Love Songwriter, do you think Woman of Honor is dead in the water division, or can it be saved? I think it's dead in the water division. I don't think anything Ring of Honor can be saved. I mean, look, pretty much every question we got was some variation of like, is there anything that can be done to save Ring of Honor, or what could they have done differently after the Elite left? And I'm skipping all of those because I think we kind of covered that already, and I don't really think there's anything Ring of Honor could do. But specifically Women of Honor, I mean, that's never been anything. And there just isn't enough talent out there on the, like it's all signed basically. And they don't do a good enough job with the people they bring in anyway. So I just think I don't know. I think it's completely dead in the water, and they will never, I mean, they have a hard enough time recovering anything as far as even like men's wrestling. I don't think you can really expect them to get the women's division right ever. Yeah. They didn't get that right in the best of times, in other words. So, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
now.
actually, and this is something that I, talked about when I, first started writing for Voices of Wrestling, where I was sort of doing these like Ring of Honor, like started as TV reviews, but then just turned into columns. And I think the one week they did a Women of Honor episode. And this is like 3.5 years ago. I was talking about the problems where it's, first of all, it's just been, that division has just been stop and start so many times that it's hard to take it, it's hard to take it seriously. Like they tried to do it in the golden years and it just didn't work out. And then they tried to do it. And this is something people forget. They actually tried to do it in, I want to say 2013, where they had Mischief and Athena, who is the current Emperor Moon in WWE, as sort of the heads of the division. And then they pushed it for a couple of months, and then they just dropped it like out of nowhere. And with the one that they have going now, started a couple years ago, I just think part of the problem is that, and I said this at the time, is that they had the opportunity to use talent that could have been good, but they just didn't like pick them up. Like people don't realize this, but like they brought in Heidi Lovelace, Ruby Riott at one point, and they had her wrestle a match. They brought in Kimberly when people considered her good prior to her WWE signing. They like used Candice LeRae for a couple of shows, and she actually had sort of a mini feud with Kelly Klein at one point. So like they had the opportunity to like get good talent, and instead they went with, let's go with Mandy Leon and like some other people who are just sort of average, like Kelly Klein. And they just didn't. The opportunity was there to get the right people, and they just did not. They either like whiffed on them or like just chose wrestlers who were like objectively like worse than them. So yeah, there you go. I don't think it could be saved at this point. And by the way, I should mention that when they did the Maria Manic Angelina Love match at Final Battle, they made zero mention of the Women of Honor title. So who knows what they're doing with that?
She also asked, and this is a question I'd love to ask Nate because I know you watch it. Do you think BTE is helping or hindering AEW's story progression?
I guess helping it. I don't see that it's hindering it. The most recent like storyline development they've done on there, I think, was Paige going his own way and basically telling the Elite he wasn't going to be with them anymore. And I thought they did a good job of threading that needle on TV last week, where they made it so if you had seen that on BTE, it made sense to you that Paige and Omega weren't really getting along, but they also made it make sense if you hadn't seen that on BTE, so it worked either way. So I don't know about stories in particular that it's like, really helping them one way or the other, but it's making people more invested in the characters, and I think that's really a larger aim anyway.
I think there's too much. Some of the stuff I hear happen on BTE, it does, and this doesn't even just go for BTE, it goes for everything. Like there's BTE, there's Dark, there's Twitter promos. It just feels like there's way too much extra shit other than Dynamite. And like, I get it because they only have 2 hours, but like a couple weeks back, I think it was the first time, what's his name? Excalibur just dropped in the middle of a match on commentary. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, Hangman Page left the Elite. I had not watched BTE, and I tune in occasionally, but not that often. So I was like, excuse me, he left what? And I think a lot of people watching may have had that reaction because it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? When did he leave the Elite? I watch this show every week, and that just happened apparently. So I'm sure if you're watching BTE, it makes more sense. And I'm not sure what the solution is. Either it's just not having Excalibur just drop random nuggets from BTE, like we're all supposed to know what the fuck he's talking about. But like, it is very, very like jarring sometimes. That was a really easy example for me is the Hangman Page one, where it's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. As far as I know, he never left the Elites, but apparently that's the thing that happened on YouTube. So, I
don't think there's really a solution, because the solution is don't do extra things, and that's kind of a back. You're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot. Like, oh, let's not have more fun stuff for the people that are really into it to tune into and spend attention and money on or whatever. So I think the price of having an announcer tell you a fact about something that happened, like, is a fine price to pay for that. Like, so, you were jarred about it and maybe you had to look up what happened. Like, not the worst thing in the world.
I just wouldn't do something that big on BTE, I guess. But I don't know. It's not as bad as it was when in New Japan, where it felt like you had no goddamn idea what was going on in that Bullet Club Civil War shit if you weren't watching BTE. Whereas here, it's more, I feel like they are a little more low-key about what's actually happening on BTE versus, just a weekly TV show. And probably because they're actually producing all of it, and it all kind of fits together a little better. But, like, it's just still very jarring. So I hope I would say avoid stuff that big on BTE, maybe. Let's see. At Surinil, do you think ranks and win-loss records have been a positive for AEW? I don't think it's been a negative or a positive. I don't even think it's really mattered. I mean, I never pay attention to the rankings. I don't care about the rankings. It hasn't made any fucking difference to me. Might as well not even have it. So.
They annoy me. So I like the rankings are fine. Like, I don't mind doing a little ranking on a week-to-week basis, like, and they can base it off their own stats or whatever. It seems like it matches up with ELO scores pretty closely, but the win-loss records being so prominent all the time just like forces the viewer to pay attention to them, and I don't think they have the storytelling value that they think they have or something. Like, especially when you have, oh, here's our top 5 rankings, and the person in third is like 3-3, and everybody has like a 500 record. It's like, it just makes people seem, it makes the booking seem more 50-50 than it is, or it makes people seem more interchangeable than they should be. And I think you're just calling too much attention to it. I think they should use it where appropriate or when it helps the story they're telling them. Like, when it's John Moxley, you can say, oh, by the way, John Moxley's basically undefeated, except that he walked out in a tag match. Like, that works in your favor. Whereas the rest of the time, it's just like begging the viewer to disagree with it.
Anything to add, Sean?
I guess I would say the records sort of a similar thing. I think, like, I don't mind the records. I just think that the way they sort of like work around them could be like tweaked a little bit. Like, one thing I noticed is that, like, there was a big I guess argument or whatever regarding the fact that Chris Statlander and Britt Baker are having a number 1 contenders match this week, when they were, I think, at last check, like when they announced the match, they were like 3-4 or something like that. But if you look at like the dark results, like they both won matches on that show, or on the dark that was taped, that's being aired on Tuesday. And so when you look at those matches, like, okay, they both won matches, and then they both moved up because Hikaru Shida didn't wrestle and Nyla is suspended. So in that regard, it makes sense. But then I guess part of that you might want to like consider like changing the date that you release the rankings, because again, with the knowledge of the dark results, you're like, okay, that makes a little more sense. But like, just watching it on Dynamite and seeing them announce that match as a number 1 contenders match when they're like 4-5 or 3-4 or whatever, and Hikaru Shida, who's number 1, isn't included at all. That's just a bad look. So I guess maybe I don't know if they have to change the date when they release the rankings, or I think they could. Again, I think AEW is doing a very good job. They just need to make a lot of different like small tweaks, and I think they can improve a lot of things, including the rankings.
Stuart Iverson says, which wrestlers have ROH wasted the most this year? He said one of them was probably not the worst one, but having Mayu as Ring of Honor champion and letting Stardom do more at the belt than you do seems like a mistake. Yeah, I'd say so. Who have they wasted the most? You could argue like half the fucking roster. I would say Jeff Cobb probably, because what has he done since losing that fucking main event to Taven in like 8 minutes, and he was one of the few guys who are on your roster that's actually over, and one of the few guys that like still has a New Japan connection, which means added credibility. So I don't know. I guess I go with Jeff Cobb off the top of my head.
I guess I would say Jeff Cobb. I mean, again, you could probably go with a lot of different people. But the fact that they build him up as undefeated and then he loses to Matt Taven in like a totally like flat match in the main event of a pay-per-view, that's just like, and not only that, but like since that loss on the last two pay-per-views, he's been in like the free pre-show match. Like he hasn't even been on the actual pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. It's crazy.
Other people, I guess they could have done more with Bandito and people like Mark Haskins. But again, I think, and I feel really bad for the Lifeblood guys because when, Juice and when Juice left and, Dashwood left and then David Finlay had his injury, that sort of left those guys sort of high and dry without any real sort of purpose other than like getting repeatedly beaten up by Villain Enterprises on every show. So, yeah, that whole thing, like, it was really a contrast of like they put together the end of last year, start of this year, they put together like two like totally like random stables of people, and like one of them, Villain Enterprises, has like clearly worked, and the other one just fell apart and did not work at all.
My answer is Vinny Kingdom. They should push Vinny Kingdom more.
Okay.
They are pushing Vinny Kingdom more.
Yeah, but they should push him even more, and they should have been doing it sooner.
So let's see here. The people asking about like Ring of Honor's history and all that, that's a lot longer than we have time to go into right now. So I apologize to both of you. At Rich, I don't want to give answers to that because that would take so long.
Oh yeah, but I just want to make a quick comment if I can. I would just say that, and this is a thought that I've had for a while. I think it's really interesting that Ring of Honor has, when you look at it, has sort of followed the paths of sort of both in ways both Noah and All Japan, which is kind of interesting as well because those two promotions are sort of from the same sort of family tree, I guess you could say. Where if you think about it, I guess you could say that like when Sinclair bought Ring of Honor, the Ring of Honor that like we all knew and loved pretty much died at that point, and it became sort of a new promotion, even though it was technically the same thing. And that's, I guess, sort of what happened with All Japan too, where they sort of like the All Japan today is not technically the All Japan that was like around in like the 90s and like with Misawa and Kobashi and all that. And then like with Noah, like ROH and Noah were arguably the like two most critically acclaimed promotions of the mid 2000s, and both of them now. I mean, look at where they are now. They're not.
Well, Noah's had a good year.
Well, I mean, they're not. Well, I mean that in the sense that like they are like nowhere near what they once.
Yeah, that's true. I just wanted to stand up for Noah. Rich Ladder 32. Has anything angered the Fed Defense Squad more than AEW? I think the answer to this is clearly no. I don't really know what else even could theoretically anger them more. They really hate the fact that there's like another American wrestling company on major league television. So
it's either AEW or the New York 64.
Yeah, either one of those two. It's been I don't know, like a lot. So many people just have lost their fucking minds since AEW started. Like people, I never would have guessed. Even some people I very much would have guessed, but some people I never would have guessed. So it's.
I think part of that too is just because that, say what you will about AEW, and there's a lot to criticize about AEW, but their existence has like just further exposed like how bad WWE is. Like if there was no AEW, like we know that WWE is not good right now, but like AEW has just shined a brighter light on it and like makes them look even worse than they do. And I'm sure the Fed Defense Squad isn't really happy about that. So
yeah, well, I mean, look, they're such a weird bunch anyway, because it's like they will tell you in one side of their mouth that like everything's going great and the ratings and falling and the network numbers being down. One of them actually said to me the other day, like the network numbers being down is a Brian Alvarez myth. And I was just like, why don't you just yell like fake news at me? That would seem like it would be a lot faster and easier for both of us. But no, I'm like, they're simultaneously like, they're super convinced that everything WWE does is great and awesome, and you don't got anything to worry about. But then they're also like very angry all the time on Twitter and constantly getting at other people's mentions to yell about WWE. And it's like everybody can kind of see through you. Like I think New Japan's had a great year. My favorite year of New Japan in many years. I am not in the mentions of anyone who says New Japan sucks or it's fucking terrible. It's their worst year ever. I'm not in their mentions because I don't fucking care. And because I'm like, I'm perfectly happy with the fact that, and if you like New Japan, great. If you don't like New Japan, great. I love DDT. If someone says DDT sucks, who fucking cares? I know I don't think it sucks. I don't really got to argue with you. But like the WWE people are so, they've always been hyper defensive, but it's gotten to such a level now. It's like we can all see through you. We know that you're this hyper defensive because you also know it's bad. If you didn't also know it's bad, you wouldn't be I wouldn't have New Jersey Nick in my goddamn mentions screaming at me. So that's why if WWE fans want to take the WWE defense squad wants to take any advice from me, stop caring about what other people say. And if you really love it so much, just go love it as much as you want quietly away from my mentions. Thank you. Anyway, let's see. I don't know why you mentioned New Jersey Nick. Not that I'll ever listen to this, but fuck that guy. I'm glad I popped my girlfriend in the background.
By the way, John, I have no idea who that is.
No one. If you want to see some comedy, you can check him out. At Empress Consort says, why did Ring of Honor have Women of Honor in the first place? They weren't going to put any time or resources into it and clearly had no interest in making it important or mean anything. Why even have the division at all? And they clearly didn't want it. They felt like they had to, I guess. I don't know what other answer there is. They felt like women's divisions are a big thing now and they had to do it. I don't really know. There's no real other answer as far as I can tell.
Yeah, by the time they created the Women of Honor title, they had the Stardom connection and they used some Stardom wrestlers, but like I mentioned earlier, they had the opportunity several years ago to sign some people who are on the WWE roster right now, and they just didn't do it. And they even were using some people pretty frequently, like Deonna Purrazzo. She's a technically sound wrestler, and she had potential to be a top star in the division once they created the title, but they just didn't go anywhere with it, and she left. And by the way, one note from that I saw from the TV taping today. So how Maria Manic on the pay-per-view basically like totally destroyed Angelina Love? Well, they did a segment on the TV where Bully Ray came out and put her through a table. So
yeah, well, gotta get that Bully Ray youngster over.
And Teddy Hart was in the front row apparently and watched his girlfriend get destroyed.
So let's say I looking through the Discord questions and the Super J Cast questions are pretty much the exact same thing we've already talked about. The how can Ring of Honor get back to relevancy or whatever? They can't. The end. Let's see if there's anything on the Voices of Wrestling server. Yes, I think a lot of stuff we had. You have no idea how many fucking questions we got. They're basically just what the fuck, Ring of Honor? What could they have done differently? Blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of questions like that.
I think the best option for Ring of Honor right now, honestly, is just hope that Anthem buys them. Because I feel like that right now in America, there's that glut of promotions sort of below AEW and New Japan USA, like MLW and Impact and Ring of Honor. It just feels like that those promotions should be just better served to join forces and just be one promotion, and they would all be better off for it.
But this is what people said about Noah and All Japan and Wrestle One and and 0-1 for
yesterday.
Yeah, but that never happens. So I doubt this will happen either. But,
I guess if theoretically Ring of Honor were to or Sinclair decided if they wanted to get rid of it, Ring of Honor. In that instance, I guess the best option for them would be, I'm sure Anthem would love the content. So I guess that would be their best option as opposed to, seeing Ring of Honor on the WWE Network.
Okay. And let's see here. A couple questions. Carl says, who is your favorite wrestler in current ROH? And maybe one match they could recommend for me to watch from 2019 ROH. The only match I can tell you that I haven't even watched, I keep forgetting to watch it. People say that Briscoes versus Roosh and Dragon Lee match is really good. I keep forgetting to watch it, but apparently that's like their match of the year. So
yeah, I heard the same things. And I think that match is on YouTube. I could be wrong, but it is out there to watch. Another, I don't know if this is a match of the year contender or anything. It's definitely not for Ring of Honor, but one match that I also heard was very good. I think there was a 4-way back in April that had, let me see, I think it had Flip Gordon, PJ Black, Bandito, and Caristico, who was the original Sin Cara. I heard that was pretty good. I think that was on the Masters of the Craft show back in April. And then I would say actually go back and watch some of the Briscoes GOD matches. I particularly enjoyed their ladder war from the Summer Supercard. And I think the match that they did in New York, where they did the title switch, where the Briscoes won the titles back, I recall hearing that was pretty good as well. Though it's hard for me to say because, again, I really haven't, like I mentioned earlier, this is like the least I've watched Ring of Honor in a year. Just, part of that is because the product hasn't been that good, but part of it too is just that, AEW has taken up more of my time. So it's
what I will say first of all is I saw both those matches, the GOD Briscoes matches. I cannot recommend either one. That's my personal take, but they were fine.
On the point of Caristico, I just want to endorse Caristico for best on interviews. He always wishes a good night to Arena Puebla. Vote Caristico.
Okay. Who's our favorite wrestler in Ring of Honor, by the way? That was the other part of the question. I can't even think. I guess Roosh? I don't know.
I guess Bandito,
Roosh is fun.
I guess Bandito is the most exciting wrestler in Ring of Honor, so I guess I would say Bandito.
I'll round it out and say Dragon Lee.
All right. And then Carl also says, fuck, marry, kill, Kenny, Cody, and the Bucks. Ooh. I am going to fuck the Young Bucks, marry Kenny, because Kenny and I have a lot of interest, we have a lot of interest like crossover, so I'm sure he and I would be a very happy couple. And we just won't talk about his wrestling, I guess. And Cody is who I would kill, unfortunately. Sorry, Cody. You're out of here.
I guess I would go with the same choices. As much as I like Cody's promos, I really enjoy Kenny as a wrestler. So
now are you going to be able to handle all the weeaboo talk though with Kenny? Because he's going to want to talk about Yuri on Ice. I don't know if I can handle the gamer talk. That's actually going to be the biggest problem. But the weeaboo talk I can handle. Now that
you say that, Cody comes off to me as more of like a nerd of like American culture. Like I know he's a big Star Wars nerd, and I could, I guess, talk to Cody about Star Wars a lot. So, oh man, that's a really tough choice. I guess in that regard, maybe I'll kill Kenny and marry Cody.
Everybody wants to fuck the Young Bucks, so we got that.
Yeah.
Well, I think I would marry the Young Bucks. They seem like big wife guys who really love their wives a lot. So I feel like they would be, very attentive husbands.
And polygamy. Wow.
And polygamy that you get two for the price of one. I would probably go with fuck Kenny. I think that's self-explanatory. I would say kill Cody. I think Cody, a little too ambitious for my taste in a partner. He's, I think you would always feel like you're sort of second priority.
Yeah. BTF says, did Ring of Honor do anything right this year? No, I don't think they did. I
think they made interesting signings to begin with, like Roosh, Bandito, Jeff Cobb, Tracy Williams, Mark Haskins. These are all like good people to add, but they made no use of them whatsoever, really. So
yeah, it doesn't matter who they sign because they can't book. But yes, that's true. They did sign some interesting talent.
Yeah, it should be, and it also is worth mentioning that as far as the end of this year goes, I know they signed Flamita, they signed Dan Moff, 46-year-old Dan Moff. They signed Tyler Bateman because he's doing the thing with Vinny. and I was just scrolling through Twitter, and a Cubs fan mentioned that they signed Slex from Australia. So,
by the way, Ring of Honor. Now, remember we mentioned there's going to be a Vincent Goff stable. They do have a Goff stable. It's called Ring of Horror. So there you go. It's so fucking terrible. Ring of Horror. Ring of Horror. Anyway, let's see. The last question, the final question is actually, well, YOLO gives us two questions. He said, Ring of Honor question: how will Ring of Honor deal with the possibility of the boys signing with WWE, which would certainly be a tremendous blow to Ring of Honor? I know you're kidding, but really, there is nothing to deal with for Ring of Honor except for the fact that like they should no longer exist. So like you can't have it. It's like you're on fire, you know, and like if your house is already on fire, if someone throws a rock through the window, you're not going to notice. So what are you going to do? Don't really have anything else to say here. His AEW question, he said, will you hashtag join the B Dark Order and why? I know that B was a typo, but I like the idea of like a B team Dark Order. So yes, I will join the Dark Order's B team, the backup Goffs. That's what I'm going to join.
That'll be you and the Beaver Boys.
Me and the Beaver Boys. So there you go. All right, let's wrap this up. Sean, give me some plugs. What are you plugging?
Okay. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at SACedor2994. Yeah, you can just follow me on Twitter for that. You can follow my work at Voices of Wrestling. By the time this goes up, hopefully my final battle review will be up on the site. Is this going up tomorrow, John, or is it like really late?
Your guess is as good as mine, buddy.
Okay. All right. Well, presumably by the time most people listen to this, that review should be up on the site, so you can check that out. And then I guess you can go to the forums, the VOW forums, which I noticed recently. There's not a lot of activity on there recently, but I still do update my little EWR WCW diary thread, so you can go check that out. Should be posting some 1999 stuff soon, so that's exciting. And I think that is all. I guess check my stuff out too in the New Japan Yearbook when that comes out in a couple weeks.
All right, Nate. First of all, plug all your stuff, and we already talked about how you're going to Japan. I want you I'm very jealous. I keep thinking about how jealous I am of all these people going for Wrestle Kingdom. But also what I mentioned too, because I forgot I hadn't mentioned this on the air at all, the weird opening was in tribute to you, the Bandori cover. So
yes, thank you very much for that.
That was my present in exchange for you coming on this stupid podcast where I complained about I assume your favorite promotion.
Yeah, well, probably favorite American promotion. But yeah, I do the weekly Everything Elite podcast. You can find it on your podcast app of choice, or it is at Twitter at Everything AEW. We talk about AEW every Thursday morning, pretty much. No, that's not accurate. Thursday evening / Friday morning. So if you want to hear more defenses of it because we are co-opted, or if you want to hear more criticisms of it because we are haters, then that's your place to go for that. We also have a Patreon where we just mostly talk about things that are more fun to us. So lots of Joshi talk on there. We've got a episode with Brian Quimby from Street Fight Radio where we just make fun of Gabe Sapolsky. There's a episode with Kath Barbadoro from WrestleSplania where we talk about My Dad is a Heel Wrestler, the New Japan family film featuring Hiroshi Tanahashi. So all sorts of fun stuff on there. Check it out. But yeah, probably your easiest way to find us, Everything Elite or Everything AEW on Twitter.
Yeah,
I can confirm that the Patreon is very good. I am a subscriber to that. So you guys do a good job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Notice my invite has been lost in the mail, apparently, but it's fine. Next week, the year in review series. We're gonna have the penultimate episode, the miscellaneous Puro episode, which I just put together basically because I still want to talk All Japan. I still want to talk BJW. I didn't want to give them their own episode this year. So we're going to talk All Japan, Big Japan, Noah. We'll probably even talk a little bit Wrestle 1 and 0-1, even though I haven't watched them at all this year. maybe a little Dragon Gate. And I haven't watched them in all this year either. But we're going to talk basically anything male Japanese wrestling other than New Japan, which gets the last episode that we're doing, which should be surprising anybody, or DDT, which we already did. So that'll be next week. All the remaining male Puro Feds, they get their own episode with returning guests, Thomas Fishback and Paul Vosch, both from the Voice of Wrestling website. So that is our second to last year in review episode. So look forward to that. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at Wrestle Omakase, Wrestling Women Fet. You can also, of course, join either the Super J Cast or the Voice of Wrestling Discords, where you can come chat with me in the Wrestling Omakase channels. We have channels on 2 Discords because I don't know how that happened. Just kind of happened. And of course, you can donate to Red Circle if you enjoyed this episode. I forget to mention that every single week, but we very much would appreciate it. So thank you as always for listening, everybody. And we will see you next week. Goodbye.